What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? It's 420 in California. This is Reefer Revolution Live.
But I think in terms of marijuana, and legalization, I think that should be a state issue, state-based. I think it's up to the states, yeah. I'm a statesperson. I think it should be up to the states, absolutely.
Chela, did you know he was a statesperson?
You know, I know people that are very, very sick, and for whatever reason, the marijuana really helps them.
Yeah, for whatever reason, the marijuana helps me.
Smoke marijuana.
Except for the good people in the chat. What's up, everybody? It's 420 in California. We've got a new AG in town. As the legalization madness, reefer madness, just explodes in the mainstream and cannabis media. We're going to reject it today. Move on to some good news. Is cannabis going to get rescheduled? Descheduled? Are they going to free the plant and free the people in Washington? We think they might. This is Reefer Revolution Live, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
I certainly disagree. And so do the good people over at WeTV, the Cannabis Media Network.
Mark and Craig, Pop Brothers at Law. It's Shut the Fuck Up Friday, and we are here with Michael Rappaport, and we are going to review that script for you. Mm-hmm. Big brother, what do you say when the cops first pull you over?
Why'd you pull me over?
And when they start asking questions?
I'm not discussing my day or night, sir. Mm-hmm.
And if they keep asking questions?
Politely say, am I being detained or am I free to go?
And if detained, what do you say?
Sir, I invoke the Fifth.
Mm-hmm. And then, Michael Rappaport, what do you do?
Shut the fuck up.
Simple, 25 words, politely, respectfully. Review it, not only on Shut the Fuck Up Friday, but every day.
And don't forget to shut the fuck up.
What are we supposed to do?
Shut the fuck up.
And then when the cops ask more questions?
You shut the fuck up.
What if they put the cuffs on you?
Shut the fuck up. You don't say a fucking word. You know what you do? You shut the fuck up.
And they take you to the station?
You shut the fuck up.
And then they try to let you go.
You shut your fucking big fucking mouth. You shut the fuck up.
And that's the tip of the day.
I fucking love those guys.
Love them.
What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? Those are the Pot Brothers in Law with Michael Rappaport, and we are Reefer Revolution Live, the show where we spark up.
Oh, shit.
And shut the fuck up. No, we don't shut the fuck up. We spark up. Talk about marijuana in the mainstream media, the politics of pot, and cannabis cures every Sunday at 420. Welcome, everybody in the chat, because when I say we, I not only mean me, I mean everyone there, and Coach
Hi,
Chela.
everybody.
Oh,
so good to see everybody in the chat already.
Jumping
awesome.
in.
Thank you.
The whole cadre is moving in. Holy Cannabis Oil just jumped in.
And totally shut the fuck up.
Especially in Baltimore.
Know the script.
Know
the script. Shut the fuck up. Know the script. Hey, Holy Cannabis Oil, since you just jumped in, and I do want to say something. I'm sorry to digress from the news, but
welcome, everybody.
Everybody,
this is an ease and flow show, babe.
It is. Holy Cannabis Oil, we've thanked you before, but I wish to thank you again. And I wish to give you a little commentary about what I am noticing on my mom with Holy Christ Oil. So I give her a few drops of the Holy Christ Oil, and she opens up her eyes, and always gives me some nice connection when I first give her the oil. So, she seems to like it very much, and she definitely seems comforted by it. So, in her last days, I just want to thank you so much for laying that on us when we saw you in December at the Emerald Cup. Yeah, thank you. That's all.
Yep. Very cool.
Sorry to digress.
It's okay. It's a good digression. Cannabis oil is medicine.
It is.
And that's quite a blend you have there. I don't know if it's just a cinnamon, but it certainly gets a spark out of mom. And that's just the straight CBD.
Yes.
Oil as well.
Yes.
So the holy shit oil is a whole nother story.
No. We're just talking about the Holy Christ Oil.
Holy Christ Oil.
The amazing Holy Christ Oil.
Buy the book, by the way. It's buy the recipe in the book.
From the book.
From the book. So yeah, thanks for that as we are transitioning with Mom, and you all know our journey and are with us when we do it. You can follow that over at Al's Notes on all of the socials, and as well as at Reefer Rev Show and DC420 LA. Follow us both on all of the socials with those handles to keep up on the cannabis news. And there is so much cannabis news.
So much.
The American One jumping in. Welcome, American One. Mr. Sparks, the Blaster Master, finally made it to a live show. Welcome, everybody. We are streaming, of course, over on YouTube. We're also going out on Twitch, Facebook, Periscope, DLive, and Weed TV, the Cannabis Media Network. So wherever you're joining us, thank you for joining us. Share the show if you can. That'd be awesome. That's the best thing you do, is get the information about this show out, because we try to educate. This is an educational show coming from California, legal California. He's states' rights and all. He's a states guy, Donald, and a lot of states talk. A lot of states talk going on up in Washington this week, and we're going to talk about it in the news because one thing is for sure: the reefer madness is back.
It never left, dude.
It never left, and it's been Brando the Commando over on Daily Dope Show has been doing some great coverage on what's going on in the reefer madness world. The nuanced, we talked about it the last couple of weeks, the new reefer madness, the more sophisticated, nuanced, as Brando put it, reefer madness, where they've hired these hatchet guys. Somehow these guys are making a living on pulling out old tropes and old discredited information, regurgitating it under a new fancy book covers and op-eds and all of the mainstream media that'll print them to print something other than what they're talking about on the other pages that fits into their narrative. And it's just, as Chela said, it never really went away.
The status quo will not die quietly.
Not quietly. As a matter of fact, so much so it's not going away that we've created a section over at DC420LA.com, a Cannabis Chronicle, which I try to put out every week. Go over to DC420LA.com and sign up if you want to get the weekly newsletter I put out at 420 on Saturdays, just once a week. Compendium, a chronicle, if you will, of the week's news. And Chela has been working on helping me put it together every week now, so it's getting better and better. And we decided that we needed a Reefer Madness section to help differentiate what's being talked about in the mainstream media with this new reefer madness, and to also include the debunking and the rebuttal of the reefer madness that's going on. So you can find that collected over there, as well as some of the headlines that we find important during the week. And we might as well get into a little headlines right now. It's been a big week beyond the schizophrenic madness, which Daily Dope covers very nicely over on his show, his channel this week. Very in-depth take apart of everything that's been going on lately. So appreciate that, Brando. But this week, we'll get into the headlines a little bit before we get into the discussion over on the Cannabis Chronicle. A new hope for compassion in California for cannabis, as Gavin Newsom, the new governor, everybody is just buzzing out here in the cannabis space over the possibility of a new law being introduced, SB 34, to replace SB 829, so cavalierly vetoed by Governor Brown, because it's not in the spirit of Prop 64, which is for profit, give me my tax money, which seems to be a neoliberal Democrat, or at least a mainstream Democrat talking point and idea. And we'll get into that a little bit as we talk about Rhode Island's governor in the hour. But Gavin Newsom, we're looking to get some compassion back to cannabis, because that's how it all started here in California, and we want to make sure we keep it, and it's been avoided. So.
And his dad died of Alzheimer's. I think he's going to be good on cannabis.
We just found that out, actually, didn't we?
Yeah.
That he has a connection, as all of us, as many of us do, and will continue to have in the years. What if Alzheimer's was actually a deficiency of the endocannabinoid system? And
stress-related.
Oh.
If you're someone who worries a lot.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about.
Anyway, sorry I interrupted you.
With regards to the schizophrenia in the hour. And we're going to get into that, tear it apart a little bit ourselves. But meanwhile, we do seem to have a new attorney general. Barr's probably going to get put through. And all the states are like, what's he going to do? And we'll have that in the afterburn, the video of him saying, I'm going to leave the states alone, but if I had my druthers, I'd make it illegal across the nation. But he also said that Congress should do something about it, and that basically the states are breaking federal law, and they should not. And that is up to the Congress. And we agree. We agree. And we'll talk more about that. Moving along in the headlines, some of the better headlines this week, other than the schizophrenia nonsense in the Reefer Madness section. Look at all this that's going on up there in Washington. We've got the Treasury official, the comptroller of currency, Joseph Oling, saying, the Congress should take it off the schedule, so that the banks could actually do business. We don't need to pass any laws. We just need to take it off the schedule. So that's encouraging. But meanwhile, the Republicans are at work. Our good friend, I hate agreeing with this guy. I really do. I really do. But we've got video. We've got Fox video that's not crazy this week.
A little.
Of Representative Gates is saying that it's stupid that there's anti-cannabis Republicans. And I think it's stupid that there's anti-cannabis anybody, but I agree with you. He's introduced new legislation, or rather reintroduced his legislation for research. They're all after the research because that's what their complaint is. So I say we give it to him. We got it, but give him more. Give him more. So he's reintroduced his, the Medical Cannabis Research Act, bipartisan bill. The Senate has its first bill this week, thanks to Marijuana Moment. A lot of the headlines coming out of Marijuana Moment this week. A lot of good coverage over there. John Tester, bipartisan bill, and Dan Sullivan introducing their veterans research bill in the Senate. So that's going to have traction, I would think. Meanwhile, down in the states where the laboratory for cannabis, as well as many other things, are happening, Ohio finally gets cannabis sales after 2 years. They've sold their first cannabis, and numbers look pretty good. People are very, very relieved to be getting relief in the Buckeye State, as it were. And we've got some video in the afterburn in the news out of Ohio this week, so stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, in Florida, we told you, as everyone told you, that you can't pass a law and then tell people not to do something. And even Representative Gates was behind this action, saying that you're going to have to lift this ban on smoking marijuana in Florida. We passed the law. It's not going to stand up in the courts. It's unconstitutional. If you don't do something about it, I will. So Republicans all across the board in these states are looking for liberty. It'd be nice if the other side was looking for liberty as well. Like in New York, where there's a big old plan to regulate it all, baby. We're going to take a big bite out of the big hemp bud, the big hemp cannabis plant, and cover all the dots and whistles. We're going to cover it all: cannabis, hemp, and CBD. Meanwhile, guess what? No home grows. Just like in Rhode Island. I don't have the story up here. But the governor of Rhode Island last week, at the very end of the week, we're like, breaking news, governor of Rhode Island's like, we got to legalize it. Yeah. For tax and regulate like alcohol, and no home grows. No home grows. This is the new thing, and it's unacceptable. And that's what's going on in New York. So we got to stay on top of that. And meanwhile, coming out of New York, let's go to this one first. He hasn't announced, but Bloomberg, the independent billionaire, thinks we need more research, and it's nonsensical to legalize marijuana. So that's going to put him on the bottom of the list as far as people supporting the legalization, because even the neoliberal Democrats,
plus the stop and frisk and all the crazy shit that he did in New York.
Oh, that too.
Fucking mayor. Sorry. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
That's okay. No interruption.
Go on.
There's no interruption on this show.
We build on each other.
Gives me a chance to spark up my joint. Bloomberg, you're nonsensical.
Yeah. Cannabis sativa. Restrict and limit. That's right.
Restrict and limit. That's right. Yeah. Restrict, limit, over-regulate, and over-tax. That's their theme.
Hey, I'm sorry. Time out. Streamlabs. I think, is your Streamlabs not working? Somebody's asking.
Did they click on that link?
Did you click on the Streamlabs link?
There's a new, I was able to change my name.
And also somebody said, do we only take Patreon?
We'll get into. Let's get in. Let's get into that. I'll fix all that. I will fix all that. Is it the 5-2 or the FICO?
Yeah. Just people are asking.
FICO's coming up. Me too. Totally. It's the FICO and the Blue Dream and our little Blue Dream tincture. Blue Dreaming and FICOing. The full spectrum of cannabis high today.
Some people might say that we're acting a little schizophrenic.
That's hilarious. Bloomberg might be one of them that says that, actually.
I bet.
Yes, but he thinks it's nonsensical to legalize marijuana. But gives us a good time, that's for sure. And meanwhile, we have the neoliberal Democrats that are jumping in. Of course, Kirsten Gillibrand, we broke that news when she jumped out with Cory Booker to co-sponsor the Marijuana Justice Act in the Senate, which has its good and bad points. It's not going to go anywhere. But she co-sponsored that. I think, of course, 'cause she changed her tune about running for president literally overnight, saying, I'm not going to run for president. I'm going to stay senator. And after they won the House, they said, oh yeah, I'm running. 2 days later, said I'm running for president. So, and who has she been courting along with Booker? Wall Street, along with Harris. So these are all fair-weather marijuana Democrats. These guys are all jumping on the green train. Booker, Harris was not announced yet. She's saving that up for tomorrow. And apparently, I hear, rumor has it. And Booker. And they have all made the phone calls to Wall Street. This is why I put out that tweet last week, which got more likes and retweets than anything. And I said, no thanks to Kirsten Gillibrand running. We're like, why do we not like Kirsten Gillibrand? Oh, yeah. She's changed her tune. Neoliberal, middle-of-the-road Democrat, part of the Bill Clinton class of Democrat, who has completely changed her tune over the last couple of years to get progressive. Now, also running this week, announcing her run, Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is this isn't the show we're not going to discuss progressive politics in the show. We try to avoid it. We try to keep it to weed.
That's another show.
We try to keep it to weed.
But Tulsi's good on weed.
But ironically, she doesn't have the A+ from NORML.
She does not. But I'm not exactly sure why.
Whereas Gillibrand does.
Yeah, but I think because Gillibrand's been in longer. And that's probably why. Somebody
asked me on Twitter. It's like, oh, I could see what you're a one issue voter, and I'm like, yes, actually. And I said, no, I'm actually a 2-issue voter, and that other issue is on illegal wars. And Tulsi Gabbard happens to be in the same camp as I am as far as illegal wars go.
And if you say we're a 3-issue voter, it would be Medicare for all.
And
cannabis, illegal wars, Medicare for all.
And telling the DNC to go F themselves, just like shut the fuck up. But you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So there you go. Tulsi Gabbard.
Not the DNC. If it was Democratic with a small d, then we could talk about it. But damn it, that's another show. Sorry.
As we said, it's time to create the Reefer Madness section in the Cannabis Chronicles so people aren't confused. This is a great, actually, this includes a really good rebuttal by Baron Stock over at Leafly. He was on Tucker Carlson this week. You'll see that video in the Afterburn. After much discussion, I am going to play it in the Afterburn, as well as Matt Gaetz' appearance on Kennedy and Tucker, the dueling cannabis pundits over there, and Tucker is just out of his league this week as far as his coverage of this Reefer Madness. You can find a pretty good article over there in the Seattle Times, actually, that takes a look at the New Yorker article and how basically the research is just garbage. It's garbage science. It's the Ziva Cooper tweets are phenomenal. That Brando covers that in his coverage. She was did the study that he's talking about in the New Yorker, and the book that references the New Yorker. So this is all very coordinated, in case you didn't guess already. This is the The horse is out of the cannabis barn.
Uh-huh.
There's no putting the cannabis genie back in the bong.
No.
And I saw some nice bongs actually at that
Really?
wedding expo.
Yep. We're going to see them soon.
Yeah, we're going to see that
in the
video.
afterburn.
But it's, they see it happening. So now they have to come at this from a whole new way. And their new way is just putting up split and polish and getting some young people, and hack jobs to write books and articles, to regurgitate their same old stuff. But there is no new stuff because the negative doesn't outweigh the positive. What's coming in is all the positive science. More science is coming. The TED Talk that we're going to play of the palliative doctor that said to the 73-year-old, no, there's no medical benefit to cannabis. And then she handed him a stack of clinical studies and said, maybe you should read these.
Which is exactly what we need to do, you guys. We all need to bring our doctors research studies that we know of to inform them, because they don't get this education. They don't get endocannabinoid education. I've started asking all my doctors if they have endocannabinoid education. And I just ask them every time I go. I just keep asking until they tell me yes. Or if they tell me no more than once, I just don't go back to them. I find another doctor who knows what they're doing. Because the endocannabinoid system is something we've known about for 30 years. If they're not hip to it, then they're really, really behind. And I'm sorry, but that's not a doctor. I'm not interested in going to that doctor. I'm just not.
True story. And, that really is, and with CBD being, 47 states essentially have some legal form or decriminalized form of cannabis, according to NORML, which we'll see in the video, that statistic. But with CBD being everything like, what was his name? From Tennessee? Frazier? No. From the Emerald Cup? The guy we talked to? Frazier. Is it Frazier? Yeah. Hey, I remember it. See?
Yeah.
Frazier. He said, oh, yeah, everybody's got a little CBD in their pocket.
Yeah. Every senior. Got a little tincture of CBD in their pocket.
Oh, you're a pretty good impersonator, too. Stabby McStabwood.
Hello.
Welcome back. Exhausted 11. Laura P. Bonnie Lee jumping in there, too. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show. We're just running through all of the headlines we found this week over at DC 420 LA, a Cannabis Chronicle. And right now we're talking about the Reefer Madness section, which we created. And we'll see some of those videos in the afterburn, and we'll dissect them along with you. But meanwhile, this story coming out of the New Yorker trying to redeem themselves a little bit, and that's going to get us, these two stories are going to sort of catapult us into our conversation to this hour. Over the New Yorker, coming up with Don't Call It Weed and other tips from the Cannabis Media Summit. Reporting on members of the Green Press discussing style guidelines and bad puns.
We love puns. I don't give a fuck.
Shut the fuck up.
Puns are the puns. Puns are things of my people. We will always keep track of puns and maybe make a bunch and whatever. We're old people and we pun.
So are you keeping you're keeping puns around on religious grounds?
Puns, yeah. Cultural. On cultural grounds. Puns are part of my heritage and I will continue to use them. They're fun, you guys. Come on. Don't be so stuffy.
Well, apparently weed is also it's no good anymore.
Well, weed's no good. I get why weed's no good, because gardeners don't like weeds in their garden. And if we're trying to give cannabis a good sheen, we don't want to have any negative connotations. And people haven't been using cannabis consistently throughout the years, so it doesn't have stuff attached to it.
Now the other thing,
and it's the name of the plant, so let's just call it cannabis.
The other one I saw this week was over at, or another along this line was on over at cannabis.net. They had a meme, one of their video memes, that said that boobs and bongs are out. Those gotta go. That's got to be on that list of taking that way of marketing. And but as I say, bongs have always, we've had them. But they just, they end up being a piece of furniture that you can knock over and break and spill. But that seems to be changing. And you'll see. But so weed is no good anymore, which is interesting. Herb, we could call it herb. It is a medicinal plant, right? It's a medicinal agricultural product.
As Alexis Bortel tells us, that Representative Terry from Tennessee calls it, it is a medicinal agricultural product. And I love that description of it. I'm going to run with it. I'm totally taking it across all party lines. And cannabis is a medicinal agricultural product. It should be treated as such. It should never be compared to alcohol, ever, ever, ever.
But apparently that's going to be the only way. That's the only way the Democrats think we're going to be able to get it legalized federally.
I'm going to write nice notes. It's not at all like
at least
alcohol.
the cannabis, the very large and powerful cannabis caucus.
I adore them, and perhaps they'll write me back a nice note that explains that it's the only way to get it through to the American people's head, and then we'll move on from there. But it's not doing us any good, and we've waited this long, and I think that if people who rely on cannabis as a life and death issue are willing to wait for it to be considered tomatoes, then I, as someone who uses it medicinally, but not as a life and death medicine, I should be willing to wait for it also. So, well, we're following their lead.
We're going to talk about that and this fear mongering that they're doing, and another angle at it. But to wrap up our headlines, and over there at DC 420 LA, Cannabis Chronicle, where you can subscribe to get a newsletter every Saturday at pretty close to 420, if I can. It's interesting. We found that the Observer picked up a story. And
tell them why it's interesting that it's the Observer, because maybe not everybody knows.
The Observer is connected to Jared. Or is it
Yes.
Jr.? I think it's Jared.
Jared.
Yeah. It's Jared's paper.
Kushner.
Yeah.
45's son-in-law.
Yeah. So it's J-Dog's paper. And they covered this story entitled, it's official, Weed's Not Cool Anymore. Basically saying that your dad's weed use, you took a pretty deep look at this article, Chela.
I did.
And what did you glean from their take? It's not Reefer Madness, and yet it's taking a look at consumption.
It's kind of states' rightsy. It kind of talks. It's a very even-handed presentation of what cannabis use actually kind of looks like today. It wasn't wildly sensationalized like I might have expected from a conservative outlet. And although they do say that Elon Musk uses it, which is not true, that I think I found this article particularly interesting because it's Jared's paper, and Jared is so close to 45, who is a states guy, who I think could really, and the Treasury guy is about it, and the AG is not going after it. He's resigned to the fact that cannabis is going to be the new law of the land. I think that they're paving the way for their conservative friends to accept cannabis as the new thing. And I think that's fantastic. And I think it's crazy that it's going to come from the right and not the left, especially because that freaking governor, they're all about making money on patients. I'm sure the Republicans are too, but some of them aren't. And I think that they can really, they seem to be more interested in liberty than the Democrats.
Oh, well,
as is their history.
Certainly in this issue, with this issue, when we're talking about
as
the governor,
a former Democrat and someone who leans to the blue side of the aisle, it's really disappointing that they're not on board.
We're talking about the governor of Rhode Island, who last week we reported said, okay, yeah, all right, I give up. We're going to legalize, but they're going to not allow home grows.
Right. Just like New York is not going to allow home grows until you guys, the Democratic New Yorkers, say so.
Democratic governors of New York and Rhode Island, no, you cannot grow your own.
Which is crazy town.
Yeah. Cannabis sativa. This no home growth thing needs to die, but lawmakers are so behind on this issue. Most lawmakers look at cannabis with contempt. Exactly. This is so true. And it's much more so in the Democratic Party. Now, Matt Gaetz, some of the younger and more libertarian group in the Republicans are having their own fight with the dinosaurs in the Republican Party. with regards to this, like the idiot this week who said 90% of the marijuana comes from over the southern border. That's not true at all.
Not accurate in the least.
That's not even close.
Why would we? No.
It actually goes the other way.
Yeah, if
it's going anywhere. Kennedy reported that. So
they might be smuggling in avocados.
That's what's happening. We have illegal avocados coming over the border. Yes. And legalizing, actually, if you look at the Cato Institute, they're reporting their reports that legalization actually would be better than a wall as far as hindering or stopping illegal immigration. So the Republicans and the conservative libertarian angle bent of the group seem to be leading the way in states as well as in Congress. So disconcerting. And despite the fact that the presidential candidates in the Democratic Party are on the train, they're on. They've got the bills going, in the House and in the Senate, and they've moved over into the zone, or where they were against it before.
It's a good
for the most part
opportunity.
They've all changed their tune, and this, hey, well, yeah, what's easier than 98%? There's 96% of the country think medical marijuana should be legal, and over 68% think it should be legalized recreational.
Yeah. Write and email and tweet and send nice notes to all of your elected reps. I do it in a rotation. I buy postcards from my local shop here that talk about my local neighborhood. Some of you guys who follow us on Instagram might see some of them that I post, but
you can follow us on Instagram at Reefer Rev Show.
You can. I like to write nice notes. I like to do the handwritten thing because I've read that when you write handwritten notes, they think it counts for like hundreds and hundreds of people. So I write handwritten notes, and they're always positive. I try to be positive. And tell them what I want. I just am writing Jimmy Gomez, our representative, that I want him to be a original co-sponsor of Medicare for All. So, write nice notes to your elected officials about the things that you're passionate about. There you go.
And Blaster Master, just to answer your question, there's the sound. Yes,
there it goes.
We do have the air riser going. We have some. What are we smoking? Skittles.
Sherkle. Which
is, I'm sure, some kind of purple Urkel crossed with
Skittles, maybe.
Maybe Skittles.
I should have asked Dr. Fish before I left, but I did not. I think he's busy today, so I don't think he'll be in the chat. But if Dr. Fish is listening, let us know what Sherkle is.
We did our Endocanna DNA tests.
Yeah, I'm not ready to talk about it, though.
But so stay tuned for that. We're going to report on what the reports say.
We did it last night. Saturday night, We did
it last night. We decided, what, let's do this. We got our 23andMe. You can just upload your data. Mm-hmm. We'll do it for the audience. We'll do it for our patrons. We'll do it for our OG 420 maybe, and put some chat up there over if you want to go over it. Let's work that out. We'll work that out with regards to the Patreon and the other link. Let me make sure.
We have a silly video coming to you also. We entered this writing contest, and we had to give a 30-second video.
I guess that's what it is, right? It's technically a writing contest.
Yeah. So we wrote this, we entered this writing contest, and we had to do a 30-second video for it, and we took like about 1 million takes about it, and it's pretty silly, but once that gets edited together, we'll put that up also for patrons. So anyway, I thank you guys all for being here today.
I'm dropping the Streamlabs. It's streamlabs.com/Reefer Revolution. That's our Streamlabs. And the Patreon is the same. Patreon/Reefer Revolution. So if if you are guys so inclined and can do it, if we've invested in some pretty cool equipment that we've beta tested at the Emerald Cup. We've got more videos from the Emerald Cup coming. As we said, we did this week. There was a deadline to get into this to put into this contest, which is a story in itself. How it all
is.
We like to talk about creating reality, but apparently that might get you called schizophrenic in this country.
Apparently,
creating your own experience and your own reality.
Yeah,
might get you pegged in that definition. So let's talk a little bit about beyond the because the word of the day, the word of reefer madness this week and last week seems to be schizophrenia. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. What about getting Cannabis Sativa is saying, well, but what about getting the complacent middle to care? So many people are too skittish to advocate on weed because of their reputation. 60+% want it legal, but only 20% are regular users. It's my contention that only 20% will admit to regular use. It's okay, because you can get pegged into being all kinds of crazy if you admit to using cannabis. So it's my feeling that more dispensaries and medical cannabis patients who are finding benefit from the plant need to do testimonials about it. So we try to highlight some dispensaries. We'll see a Florida video later. We've shown them before, where they're posting videos of testimonials from their medical patients and what it's doing for them. So when you talk about cannabis to your friends that know that you use cannabis, make sure that you let them know what it does for you, not just get you high. Like, what is it that you're using it for? Like, for instance, I use it primarily for anxiety. And that's, what were you saying to me earlier today?
Well, so the Tucker Carlson video, which you'll see in the afterburn, not the one that Brando breaks down. Brando does a great job over at the Daily Dope Show, breaking down the original Tucker Carlson interview of the guy who wrote the book "Tell Your Children," which apparently was the original title of Reefer Madness, which is funny because this guy has totally embraced
that's exactly what it is.
What Reefer Mad. He comes out and says it. He says, "Hey, it turns out it's true. Pot makes you crazy, schizophrenic, and schizophrenics are violent. Therefore, pot makes you violent and suicidal."
Which is horrible. There's plenty of schizophrenics who are not violent.
And I got that from my Law and Order wife psychiatrist, who works as a forensic psychiatrist, who sees the worst people in the world commit crimes, and she has connected them to cannabis. So we wrote a book about it, full of complete and utterly debunked nonsense.
Don't get caught up with that nonsense, you guys. I mean, really, it's just reefer madness. Let that shit go.
But let's think about it just for a second.
Go ahead.
Let's explore it a little deeper.
Go ahead.
What is this fear about schizophrenia? Schizophrenia is a definition that's written up in a book. Now, it turns out this definition is quite pliable. And this definition is changed around the world and has been changed in different countries around the world to some benefit. Whereas so what we have is a diagnosis of a mental illness. According to the DSM and according to the American statistics in the US, that 1% of the population suffers from
schizophrenia. 1%.
1%.
Got it.
And or thereabouts in that range. And in that same...
And that's not the entire population of New York, is what you're saying.
Well...
The entire population of New York.
Considering, that's a whole debate, I guess, on another... We could debate whether or not New York being the highest consumer of... New York City being the highest consumer of cannabis in the world has made them schizophrenic.
Does New York have a higher concentration of schizophrenics? New York City?
I don't know. That'd be interesting to look at those numbers. But but they certainly have a higher number of jazz musicians in New York City. So maybe there's a correlation there. Correlation equals causation is basically what this book is all about, and what all of these opinion pieces are all about. Gladwell's opinion piece, Berenson's opinion book, and his opinion piece preceding that book, and Tucker Carlson, who is an expert at nothing other than that face he makes, is just chewing up the talking points of the prohibitionists into trying to reformulate it into Prohibition 2.0 and the new madness by trying to scare everyone that schizophrenics are going to run mad throughout the streets as we legalize killing everyone and their families, as just like in the movie. in 1936. So, and obviously, this is not happening.
No.
Now, let's take a look at the logic behind their premise. If cannabis is creating these schizophrenics, which apparently is what they're claiming.
Awake A is saying schizophrenia is a common side effect to many commonly used pharmaceuticals.
Caffeine and nicotine, and there's all kinds of things that can cause schizophrenia. And yes, just about everything that's prescribed by Big Pharma for certainly anything in this realm can cause it. Because nobody talks about, the guy who we can talk about, Brando touches on a little bit, how they don't ever talk about, did this school killer, what was he on as far as antidepressants?
Right.
Because I contest that as well. That Big Pharma is causing more violence with the stuff they're giving people than this plant. So let's say, just on the outside, that it's bad for schizophrenics, because we know it's not. CBD is now proven. Their studies are out there. CBD helps schizophrenia. And that's why you need full spectrum. That's why you need the whole plant. That's why you need the CBD to help regulate the THC.
It's an entourage effect thing.
Into homeostasis.
Mm-hmm.
It's how it works. But hey, you want to make some tequila? Okay, make some tequila. But they want to convolute.
No.
But it's the only bar we have. It's the only measure we have. But as Believer says, yes, just listen to the side effects on every pharma commercial. Exactly. Yeah. And death is often in them. Suicidal ideations may cause violence. If you start to feel like, if this is for suicide, but if you start to feel like you're going to kill yourself,
contact your doctor so you can be hospitalized.
I love it. And if you're allergic, don't take it. How are you going to know you're allergic to it if you don't take it? And if you've already taken it and find out you're allergic to it, why are you going to take it again?
That's going to be a huge problem.
Haley Cannabis Oil. Yeah, most of the gun violence is related to the drugs they are on. And I'm specifically talking about SSRIs. Yeah. Suicidal ideation, homicidal activity is suicidal activity. This is what it is. So that's definitely has more correlation of causation that no one will look at, because Big Pharma is who's paying these guys. Big Pharma is who, and Big Prison is who's putting these guys up to write this stuff. They're going to make these people crazy in your neighborhoods. They're going to attack you. So don't take our dogs away. But move it over to the ATF, because those guys are nicer. They still have guns, but at least the dogs can get jobs over there. But I digress. This was the biggest, blatantest issue, or rather example this week, I think, of the New York Times. The article is, does marijuana cause schizophrenia? And on the online, Chela has a message for you. New York Times. Fake news. Brando basically said this.
I fucking hate agreeing with 45.
You're not helping. You're not helping yourselves.
I hate it.
When you're putting out stuff like this, where on your website it says, does marijuana cause schizophrenia? New York Times, paper of record. Yes.
Assholes.
Period.
Fuck you.
And that's not even, if you click on the article, if you can get beyond that, which, to be honest,
no,
I'll get very deep into these articles. First of all, the news and the real information is actually at the end of the article. That's always. Usually in the last few paragraphs is when you actually find the truth. You have to get through them to get there. But it's clickbait. It's New York Times is basically now BuzzFeed. And BuzzFeed should go back to clickbait. They're much better at that. 7 reasons why Donald Trump should be, impeached. Stick with that shit. Don't try to do real news. But and you could say the same for the New York Times, because they basically become clickbait. That's exactly what that is. Does marijuana cause schizophrenia? Yes. Clickbait. Now, if you get deeper into the article, it starts to ask a little more, ask a few questions about it. But can you get even past that? So this is what's being talked about. Now let's talk about the benefits of cannabis and schizophrenia and other mental illnesses. The studies are out there that says high doses of CBD actually do wonders for schizophrenia now, is what they're saying, what the studies are saying. And the argument, the straw man, the logical fallacies that are creating this narrative are reversed by the truth, essentially, the logic behind it, the logic as opposed to the logical fallacies, that what if people who are suffering, who are untreated, most of which are untweeted because of the stigma that this article, these books are purveying, that schizophrenics are violent people.
Horrible.
No wonder people don't go for a treatment.
Yeah.
And that they are self-medicating with cannabis because it actually gives them relief from the symptoms.
Or other things, but at least if they're self-medicating with cannabis, it's not harmful. Whereas, like, if they self-medicate with meth or heroin or alcohol or opioids.
Or antipsychotics.
Because they're looking for relief. People want relief.
So
it's very disappointing.
You want to correlate and it costs, you don't want to, yeah. So let's talk about other things other mental illnesses that cannabis might help with, because there is a mental illness crisis in this country. Suicides are up. Veterans suffering from PTSD, homicidal mania, if you listen to the news. So we know that cannabis actually helps schizophrenics in full spectrum form. And what is the number one mental disorder in the country? Number one, what is it? Anxiety disorder.
I was just talking about it.
18%. It's the highest. Anxiety disorder. I don't have the meme. I get this all from a lovely meme. I'll put the link in the description later, but I don't have it up on my, I guess I could find it in my history. Maybe I'll find it. I'll find it during the afterburn with all these statistics. So anxiety disorder. Well, guess what? Cannabis is medicine for anxiety disorder.
Yep.
And the list of other illnesses, other mental illnesses, in addition to, which are higher, much higher than schizophrenia, which is the absolute lowest on the list. And the media has now hired their hitmen and their hatchet guys and their hacks to come on the mainstream media, to write books, write opinion pieces, come on the tele, and tell all the old folks that watch fucker Carlson make his face over legalization, because there's only dead people, pre-dead people, and anybody over 70 that watch. It's between the ages of 70 and dead that watch Fox News.
I think we should.
And CNN ain't much better.
I think we should follow Fraser's lead.
What's that?
CBD.
CBD is the gateway drug.
Little tincture of CBD. Everybody in the Bible Belt's got a tincture of CBD in their pocket.
And that's one thing in reading the Observer article, they basically are taking issue with the fact that Oregon has a warning label on their cannabis that says basically save the children. We'll get this right here. It says, I'll put on my
Curious cannabis connoisseur, Governor Cuomo is going to drive us away when we can just walk across the border of the state and start growing pot over there. Curious cannabis connoisseur, I think there's still an opportunity to change that. I think that it's not a done deal, and that I think that the people of New York, as they are so determined, can certainly show up and make sure that home grow is part of your law. You can do this. I know you can do this. So I'm with you, and I will write and I will tweet, but y'all got to do this. I know you can do this. You can have home grow. This is not a done deal.
Well, Michigan did it. They got 12. So Michigan figured out how to do it.
It's insane that there's
problems.
no home grow. It doesn't make any sense. It is anti-poor and anti-small business. It's ridiculous. So it completely contradicts everything that he was trying to do. So you can totally bust him on that shit and shame him publicly, as I plan to do over the next days. And I'm not a voter of New York, so he's probably not going to give a fuck. But if you guys show up and you write letters and all the things, I think that you can really, really make a difference.
Well, it is just a plan at this point.
That's right.
So we need to intercept it.
And some of the legislators already in New York are like, no, there needs to be home grow.
Right.
So just support them and keep moving forward. I know you can change this. I know New York can change this. I believe in you.
Oh, wait, Kate. Tucker was definitely wrong on this one. He needed to do his research before having that dipshit guest on. Well, they were talking about the guy that wrote the book. You're right.
Yeah.
That Brando breaks apart over on the Daily Dope. But, it's Tucker's like a broken clock. Once in a while, he gets something right, as far as I'm concerned. And he says, isn't he an alcoholic? I don't know. His face looks like he might be. And he's really puffy. So I'm sure he drinks plenty. Which, maybe he should. All these guys really they all need to try cannabis. They all need to go somewhere, just like that Utah lawmaker did. Go somewhere where it's legal and try a 5 milligram or 10 milligram gummy. Try 5
of
CBD.
Gummy.
Try CBD. Yeah. Try CBD wherever you are.
Try CBD. Everyone who's making rules needs to try CBD themselves.
But in the Observer, so what he's writing about is this: why weed is not cool anymore. And in Oregon, their label says children want to be like their parents and other adults in their lives. Reads the OLCC's officious red block lettering. When you use marijuana in front of them, they may want to use it too. You can keep them safe and healthy by not using marijuana when kids are around. Well, you can also keep them in your house by not using it when kids are around, because people love to turn in other people for using marijuana in front of their kids. So that maybe is what the warning should be.
Yeah.
But I would say it's probably the opposite. Although maybe my drinking issues came from my early introduction from my dad and watching him, but because it's one of my more vivid memories. But I was able to transition, as it were, from that substance abuse disorder without any of the. Not saying I'm any stronger than anyone else, but for those of you who have watched this show for any length of time, know my opinion about the addiction industry. And they're just trying to fuel this because the addiction industry is buying. They're probably the ones that are hiring these guys, quite frankly. They don't want to get anybody off of addiction, just to be clear. That's not what the addiction industry is all about. They like that revolving door, just like government does. Wow, the chat is just going off. I'm getting distracted by all the great comments and stuff that's going on in the chat. So we should address some of that as we talk further about the week's news. Tucker brings up in this video in the afterburn about just complete nonsense, because it's the guy who wrote the Leafly story. Beanstalk. Berenson and Beanstalk. Berenson's the bad one. Beanstalk's the good one. David Beanstalk. He writes in Leafly that basically debunks the fact that what Carlson putting this guy on is ridiculous. So that's a good article in the Leafly, and you'll see his interview with Carlson this week. And now Chela and I have a debate as to whether he handled himself well or not. On some levels he did. On some levels he certainly did not, and could have been a better spokesperson.
Of course, on some levels he did. He's a very informed fellow on this subject. But knowing that he was going on Crazy Town Tucker Carlson's
unprepared
show,
Tucker Carlson, who's going to say the same old shit.
Who's going to say crazy, wild things and overtalk him and stuff, I would think that one would do some sort of like debate prep where you practice short, concise, strong comebacks to bullshit reefer madness that you know is going to be coming at you. Instead, he was giving these long, nuanced answers, and that was just not working for the format. You have to talk to people in the language that they understand. And that's the problem, I think, with liberals in general, is that we give these long, wah, 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 Charlie Brown teacher answers when people are just, you gotta listen to their concern, say, I understand your concern, and this is what my grandma had or experienced, or my mom helped with dementia, or whatever. You gotta find an inroad to make a connection with them.
You set them up, too. It's like, what do you think about cannabis as medicine? Like, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, there's that crazy. There's not enough research. Not enough research. And, I
heard it makes you schizophrenic.
Yeah, oh yeah. New York Times says it makes you schizophrenic, according to the research. Mm-hmm. And even though the researcher said, no, that's not what we said.
That's not what we said.
That's not what we said.
No.
We said it needs more research. But a couple of comments in the chat. And just like, let's say, okay, Stabby McStabwood. Not every broadcaster still pushes the propaganda, but the most you'll hear from conservatives say is they don't care if it's legalized, but they don't openly advocate for legalization, except for Kennedy this week. Kennedy seems to be the only one that actually, I think it must be her generation as well. And Gates, of course, is younger too. It's definitely generational. This is generational.
Kennedy's like my age. She's not that young. She's a middle-aged lady like me.
Yeah. Okay.
Just saying.
I was not trying to out your age. But you look pretty good for 50.
For a middle-aged lady.
You look pretty good for 50.
I'm going to live to 100 and be perfectly intact. And super active.
Curious Cannabis Connoisseur, welcome to the show. Some people say upstate New York has the best weed in the world. That could be an amazing opportunity if the laws worked out the kinks where it's supposed to help with the low income. Yes, and keep it, I mean, of course, I guess, New York State has the shittiest medical cannabis system in the country, as far as based on what we've reported over the year and a half or so we've been doing this show. New York is pretty much the most dismal place to get medical cannabis.
Curious.
Although there are some states that are trying to compete with that. Yes.
Triple C, I would be willing to travel to upstate New York, to sample some of what some people say is the best weed in the world.
And
I feel like I've had some of the best weed in the world, having lived in California and Hawaii a lot of my life, and I would love to experience more.
Hey, listen, I believe upstate New Yorkers. They have, first of all, their hemp industry.
I'm not saying that they don't.
Their hemp industry is going to go off. They've already got that set up, ready to rock. It's going to go off. When they start growing,
I think people who grow with love can grow absolute magic. I also want to try Brando's weed. I'm sure that that's some of the best weed in the world.
Speaking 100%. of cannabis media doing great work and exposing us to new and exciting ways to use the earth, to be in one with the earth. Tara Lee jumping in the chat.
Tara Lee.
And we have been watching your live streams, the rebroadcasts.
Yep.
And I just want to say right here and now, not only are we going to try to grow a couple of plants, starting out just in a little indoor thing, a little tent, we're going to start growing some soil.
We are. We got to make the soil. It's going to take a bit.
We're going to make some. We're going to make some dirt on our dirt. We're going to make some soil on our dirt. We watched the kids from what's their farm?
Dragonfly. Yeah, Dragonfly.
Dragonfly Farms. Dragonfly Farms.
I will double check. I'm so sorry.
Tara,
drop in the chat.
I threw a curveball by talking about this.
That's okay. And I'm also typing stuff, so yes. I'm like, whoa.
Level it. Do it on live. Yes, we're gonna grow dirt live. We'll have a worm cam on or something.
A worm cam.
Do a worm cam, yeah. But we're gonna figure our neighbors are gonna be all about us because they like to plant stuff and flowers and they got fruit
Charlie,
trees and stuff.
What's the full name of their farm? Is it Dragonfly Earth Medicine? No, is it Dragonfly?
I think that's it. That might be it.
Is it Dragonfly Earth Medicine?
Yeah, Dragonfly Earth Medicine.
Yes,
but those
Dragonfly
are great.
Earth Medicine.
So yeah, check out Tara Lee's channel and check out the live stream she did from the conference up there in BC. Right, it was BC, right, Tara?
Yes, Blaster Master. We are doing soil. We are growing soil because we believe in the earth.
We just got 5.
And we have tons of it around us.
We're like sitting out. I'm watching the rain come down over 5 days. I'm like, I can't wait to get out there and gather all the leaves and start growing some dirt.
It's awesome. And plus it'll keep us help keep us moving and stuff. We have 5 raised beds outside. Listen, I'm sorry. Let's wrap up our first hour.
Let's wrap up our first hour. So we have debunked the schizophrenia nonsense, people.
Yeah, all kinds of crazy.
There's the new reefer madness is out in full force in every aspect of the media, and you're going to see some of it in the afterburn as we get into it. But we are wrapping up our first hour. This is Reefer Revolution Live. Make sure you subscribe, get notifications, ring that bell, share this broadcast. We do this every Sunday at 4:20 here from California, where we have blunt commentary on marijuana in the mainstream media, the politics of pot, and cannabis cures. We do have to stop calling it marijuana, but that is still what the media refers to it as, and it's quite frankly what the U.S. government refers to it as in the laws. So it's a conversation.
We're in a time of transition.
It's an evolving. It's an evolution. It's a revolution. It's a reefer revolution. So subscribe, get notifications. I like the T-shirt idea. I'm thinking just the Reefer Revolution Live outline, like here. Right here.
Yes.
Right? We're wrapped up.
Okay.
We've moved on. We're in the afterburn.
We're in the afterburn. Thank you. I'm like, what are you starting something new? We haven't finished.
That was it. Finish.
Thank
Subscribe.
you. Okay.
Get notifications. Share.
People in the chat have been saying that they have rung the bell, but they don't get notifications.
This happens with
there's
YouTube.
all kinds of YouTube-y, glitchy things, but listen, we're here Sundays at 4:20, so just come find us.
This happens on
share.
This happens on YouTube. We are definitely here Sundays at 4:20. Occasionally we go live during the week from if special stuff is happening.
And sometimes it's not a 3-hour show because we're on the road.
Right, and we'll do it.
But most of the time it is.
But so just it helps, and it also helps spread the channel. If more people ring the bell and hit the thumbs up. Yep. Thumbs up's always good. And share it if you can. If you do want to become a patron, that would be awesome. You can be one of our 420 OG Reefer Revolutions on Patreon for as little as $1 a month.
$4.20 a month is super cute, though.
That'd be super
cute.
Just
saying.
Because we do cover a lot of cannabis news, and folks have said, you guys really do a great show. You do a lot of work putting together your cannabis news roll-up.
It's a labor of love. I'm not going to lie. It really is a labor of love. I know. It's fun to get a couple of shekels for it. It's fun because we can say we're professional media.
Well, we get media. People are giving us media passes now. Now we have the equipment to take it on the road. We have our new Sling Studio.
Yep.
Which we had a pretty good beta testing in with Emerald Cup. We've been putting up some pretty good videos.
We got people telling us that they want to come on the show and talk about stuff.
We have medical stuff. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna evolve the show because we know you guys want to hear from people about the endocannabinoid system.
We got people that want to talk about it.
So we're going to sort of do we're going to try to become more of an interview show too that brings on doctors and researchers.
In the first hour.
Families in the first hour,
Reefer
right?
Revolution
in
hour.
Reefer Revolution Live. As well as maybe a Weed the Press segment where we'll bring on someone who's writing excellent stories in the cannabis media like Beanstein.
I think it would be awesome to become a Weed the Press medical focus.
Get their name right. No,
Beanstalk.
Yeah, Beanstalk. But like Tom Angel or somebody and Daily Dope.
I think
Brando's been on the show.
I think a Meet the Press.
And he does amazing coverage for Michigan. So.
Yeah, Meet the Press with the cannabis media would be rad.
Grow Sisters. Hello, our new friends Grow Sisters.
Grow Sisters are doing incredible work.
For
years.
We missed their show today.
I tried to find it. I'm just.
They do their show today.
They're on Instagram, you guys, at high noon Sundays. I tried to find it. I don't know. I'm not really good at Instagram.
And Tara Lee is getting out there.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And Tara Lee has been doing some amazing stuff.
Absolutely. So and
Brando.
And Brando, of course. Brando, and he did this week. He did great coverage on this on this schizophrenia nonsense. And Reefer Madness, and also on the situation in Michigan, because he is in Michigan, and so he's got the pulse there. So he does great coverage on all of the drug war stuff and stuff coming out of Michigan. So we've got, we have a channel that has a few subscribers. We get over 10,000. YouTube gives us a little more cred. We can't monetize the channel.
No.
Which is why we created a Patreon for folks saying, how can we super chat you? Can we do that? No, because they won't let us monetize our videos because we do the revolutionary act. That's the other thing I have a problem with that Observer article is that says, it's no longer revolutionary to smoke marijuana. It is if you're black, number one, in Baltimore.
Not just Baltimore. Not just Baltimore.
In this week. In this week's news, it's Baltimore.
In the news.
But is everywhere. Shoguns and 420. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. We just wrapped up our first hour. We are now into the afterburn, talking about all things. Talking about the expansion of the show. The expansion. We like expansion, the word. We're expanding the show, taking it on the road because we had a very successful test. So we're going to visit farmers. We're going to bring on guests to interview either through Zoom or in live. We can bring them up to the cabin if they're in LA, or we can go to them because we have the Sling Studio. So we can go to them all over Los Angeles. We can meet in
our cabin's awfully small.
In one of the private cafes that is going to be popping up.
That's right.
Out there in West Hollywood that
we'll
have
be
been
coming
consumption
from those
license.
Cafes. Oh my God, it's going to be so amazing.
We're going to consumption license places in West Hollywood. So
but really, a lot of the mainstream cannabis media, more popular brand-centric, brand-exposing media is going to be doing a lot of that stuff. So I think it's important for us to stay really focused for our main show to expose and promote and find and show amazing stories of the healing benefits of cannabis as often as possible. So if you guys post videos about your experience with cannabis, I hope you'll alert us to them if for some reason we don't know about them.
Oh, I found a great one this week I found.
I know, here it is. Why don't you, I'm trying to set that up actually.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Was that we're going to play the first Inside Edition one?
Want to start?
I actually had found we can start, but I have to find it again.
Okay.
But it's a personal video somebody uploaded about his transition from opioids to cannabis.
Oh, beautiful. I love that.
Really, it's a personal story of somebody. It's not
That's
a news
awesome.
story.
That's okay.
But we'd like to bring those people on that are willing to tell their stories as well to the show, because we have a platform now apparently. And
cool.
we are the ultra micro influencers.
We have more and more folks that are interested in joining us joining with their community to help grow and support each other. And that is what this cannabis community is all about. This is a multifaceted, super diverse plant, and we need to remember each other and encourage and support each other in all the things that we're doing. It isn't all about a serious, thing. It isn't all about partying. It isn't all about dabs. It isn't all about one thing. It's all about everything.
The community is as full spectrum as the plant itself.
Exactly. So, it's important that we as a community share our healing experiences and evolve the I want to get stoned to the I want to get relief. Especially because the main mental I don't like calling it illness. The main mental issue that most users use cannabis for is for relieving anxiety.
Right. Well, that coincides with the number one mental illness in the United States,
of which I'm a sufferer.
So yes.
Yeah, because I have a lot of anxiety. I used to say I'm super shy. But obviously I'm not shy because I'm here talking to you guys.
The benefits far outweigh the risk despite their lack of evidence.
Yeah.
And it still hasn't killed anybody.
And especially if you use it full spectrum. If you use it the whole plant, I'm not talking about, no offense, dabbing or anything that is processed from the plant. I'm talking about specifically...
You do full spectrum dabs.
I'm talking specifically about the plant itself in its whole flower form and at least like used as oil like ancient times have used. Things that have been practiced since ancient times, I think, are perfectly safe. Nothing has, and I'm not a doctor or a lawyer.
It's time. It's time for the disclaimer.
Yeah, the disclaimer. They're perfectly safe in our experience and in times that we have used it, and all of our friends and relatives and loved ones have used cannabis, and it seems like everybody in the chat. So
we are not doctors or lawyers. We give no medical or legal advice other than shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up. Even though we're not shutting the fuck up at all.
When it comes to legal advice. When it comes to medical advice, tell everybody you can. Scream it from the rooftops.
Yes, Laura P.
Come out of the cannabis closet. But it has to be a personal choice, as is cannabis use. That was one of the interesting things I found in that TED Talk, which I guess we'll play. Is that at some point here, but is that doctors said that people want control of their medicine. They want control of their healing. They want control of their dying. And that's one thing that doctors and big pharma takes away from people. And what the medical dispensary brings to people. They actually listen. Bud tenders actually listen to people, and they try to find the best strain for them and talk to them and give more time to them about their healing and their medicine, their relief, what they need, than a doctor does. Doctors give you, in the system, give you, what do you get, like 5 minutes at a doctor. And how long has a doctor ever sat with anyone in the chair? How long has a doctor ever sat with anyone? I bet you spend way more time with I bet Brando spends way more time with the people that he gets cannabis for in his collective, in his, whatever they call it in Michigan. Welcome, Michigan. We got a lot of folks calling Walcott. People using cannabis to kick their opioid addiction are some of my favorite stories. I cannot stand opioids. Welcome from Michigan, Colin. Absolutely. And that's all. You cannot deny this. You cannot deny this. Even the states are going, oh, yeah, we're going to add this to the list. We're going to add this to the list. Some of them. And that's actually one of the video. Let's get into some videos, guys. This is the Afterburn. This is Reefer Revolution Live. We do this every Sunday at 4:20 Pacific. Just subscribe, get notifications, share this broadcast. Come and hang out with us. Get in the chat. The chat is exploding. It gets better and better every week. I love it. Just like this show. So thank you all. Thank you all for getting in and talking about stuff. And let's get into some videos. Let's watch that video Chela was talking about. You know, every week we hear in the mainstream media mostly about protecting the children. And what about the children? And why, you know, what's legalization going to do to the children? Do I want my children to become schizophrenic? Well, look at let's see what they're talking about in Delaware. Inside Edition picked up on this story.
What? And just that quickly, Riley Maidler takes her medical marijuana.
I take it 4 times a day, 1 in the morning, and then during lunch, and then during dinner, and then at night before I go to bed.
The 13-year-old from Delaware says cannabis oil has helped treat the tumor that was eating away at her bones.
In 2nd grade, my face started to grow and it was getting bigger. My mom decided to take me to the hospital.
The news from the doctor was grim. Riley, who was 7 at the time, was diagnosed with aggressive giant cell granuloma. Only a handful of people in the world have the disease.
I was just like so uncomfortable because, you know, like seeing my face in the mirror and it's like all big and it made me really sad and stuff. I was also in pain because of my seizures that I started having. My stomach would cramp up and I started to hallucinate.
It's actually like a gut emptiness of when the doctors, first described to us what was happening and what they thought was going to happen.
After surgery, Riley's mom decided to give her medical marijuana to see if it would help her symptoms.
I was so scared. Anytime you give your child any kind of new prescription, you're scared because you're looking for those side effects. We just researched a lot and came across, medical cannabis as a possible alternative that could help her heal, and I couldn't find anything that was detrimental with using that.
The tumor, it shrunk. The seizures, they stopped.
It's way smaller than it was before. I haven't had a reoccurrence in about 4 or 5 years. Taking cannabis oil, it made me feel so much better, and my bone was growing back. The roots of my teeth were growing back. Before, they were held in with stitches and I was told they wouldn't live, but the roots regenerated and I still have my teeth.
Dr. Andrew Orden with the doctors says there's not enough evidence to support whether this type of treatment works.
The key is, if you're thinking about trying it, you need to see a pediatrician who specializes in using marijuana and especially in dosing marijuana CBD oil for your kid.
Before I took cannabis, my brain was normal, and then after I took cannabis, all of these years, my brain was the same and it didn't harm anything.
Riley's now made it her mission to help other sick kids get the medicine they need. Speaking in front of legislature, she's already pushed to pass 3 laws in Delaware. One makes it legal for kids in the state to be administered medical marijuana. Another lets children take it at school.
O'Reilly's law was to make cannabis legal for children because it was illegal, and when my mom gave me cannabis, it made me feel so much better, and I didn't understand why other kids couldn't have it. I wanted to help those kids. Hi.
She's also created the nonprofit Riley's Smile Foundation.
It's very hard knowing what helped you and seeing other people who could be helped by it.
Bringing smiles to sick children and their families by giving them a better quality of life, just like she has now.
She is very inspiring to a lot of people, and I love seeing that. what she's doing.
Changing kids' lives, one law at a time. I'm Lee Sheps for InsideEdition.com.
Laws.
We can change laws.
Laws can be changed.
That is, I think that's an online only video they did.
Oh, really? No. No.
Inside
it
Edition.
was Inside Edition.
It was InsideEdition.com.
I think it was on Inside Edition because they posted it on their socials.
Did they?
We don't watch Inside Edition normally, so how would we know?
But we certainly know inspiring 13-year-old revolutionaries.
Yes, and they're leading the charge in this revolution, and it's amazing. And I understand that.
Apparently, they're breaking down the barricades together.
Yeah.
One's taking it to the courts, and one's taking it to the legislature.
Yeah, we gotta stick it to them every way we can, y'all.
Yeah, inspiring, really inspiring story.
It just goes to show you that we can change laws.
And I had
Sebastian Cott changed the law in Georgia.
I had no idea who. I've never heard of Riley before this story, and we watched and we looked for this stuff
a lot.
How did we not know about Riley?
Please, how did we not know about a million things? And we look for this stuff.
Things. I do know one thing.
How did I not find Grow Sisters until I met her in person? How did that happen?
I know one thing. That air riser bag is full.
Here you go, babe.
Perfectly vaporized at 388 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Which we were looking at terpene boiling points before the show.
Yeah.
Interesting. Trying different flavorings. But when you recreate, you medicate.
You do. It's true.
You're getting your body into homeostasis. Listen, this is a vitamin.
It's a,
to be honest,
medicinal agricultural product. It is a vitamin. It nourishes your body 100%. I got it. It's
replenishing what we've sucked out of our bodies for the last 50 years.
Yeah. Through malnourishment. And
ironically, it's at the same time they put this stuff into prohibition is when they started poisoning us.
Well, also it goes along with that the other things that tone the endocannabinoid system, eating leafy greens, getting adequate sleep, and doing exercise, and managing your stress, are all things that have kind of gone out the window in the last 50 years. So, of course, everybody's sick and dying of Alzheimer's disease because they're super stressed out and they don't get any cannabis. They don't nourish their endocannabinoid system. Their endocannabinoid tone is all screwed up.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. Stress is the number one killer. Guess what's great? Guess what's great for stress?
Getting stoned.
Getting
relief through cannabis. Yeah. What I'm saying is that getting relief through cannabis is the same thing as saying getting stoned. And I think that old-timey heads like me and Frazier and the other guy from the Emerald Cup, whose name I don't remember, may have a difficult time transitioning to, squaring those ideas because, but that's where more people coming out and saying how cannabis relieves certain issues will normalize this idea. Will normalize the idea that cannabis is a vitamin, cannabis is a medicinal agricultural product. And sure, it gets you stoned too. Sure. And sure, you can pass around a joint and laugh and scratch and have a good time.
So you talk about the zeitgeist.
Yes. I love to talk about the zeitgeist. Frazier, Curious Cannabis Connoisseur. Frazier is the guy we met at the Emerald Cup. You can watch a video about him if you look on the channel. He's
right at the top, actually. If you go to the channel, if you're new to the channel, it's right there at the top. But it's
subscribe, get notifications, ring the bell.
It's the Emerald Cup interview we did with a couple of seniors when we were up there visiting with our Sling Studio and taking the show on the road, which we're going to do more of in the future. We've got lots planned for next year.
Cannabis, like Dave likes to say, is
not the least of which was putting in a submission to a writing contest, which we're going to edit together a little montage for our patrons. If you want to become a patron, we'll put a little behind the scenes of us creating our 30-second video we were supposed to submit for this contest. The contest ends tonight, actually. I mean, it doesn't end, but the submissions end tonight.
Yeah, anybody on the West Coast, it's open till 11:59.
It's Impact 2. it's the second one that Ron Howard and Brian Glazer did. Grazer, sorry, is doing. They did one last year. It was very successful. And it's pretty exciting, actually.
Totally. So. Somebody was saying, MDN Niles, cannabis designed to meet our individual needs. Yes, Dave likes to call it an adaptogen. It adapts to whatever it is that you need.
I'm not the only one, but yes, I do.
No, yes, Dave likes to say that in this chat, in this context. Yes. But also, if you start with a CBD dominant plant, you can mitigate some of the scarier first-time experiences that people have. A lot of people complain about their first experience as being, oh, they got all fucked up, they got too stoned and all this. But if they start with a CBD dominant plant, they won't get too high. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, this isn't terrible or whatever, you know?
Stan Holmes says, I love vapor bags. I'm envious. My Extreme Q broke after 7 years.
What?
After 7 years. That's
the replacement should be here Tuesday. Hooray.
Good for that. Are they, did they replace that? I'm curious. Did they, after 7 years, did they give you a new one? I'm curious because I heard they were a pretty good company. We're enjoying it. I mean, we'd try a Volcano if some company wanted to, like Volcano wanted to send one to us and do a comparison, but I'm not going to spend $500 with even $350.
We don't have a place to store it.
We don't have a place to put it, number one. But the air riser, we enjoy it.
And we haven't broken anything too badly yet. We haven't broken anything that requires us to replace it.
I also take ashwagandha and holy basil, other adaptogenic herbs.
Awesome.
Have I heard of ashwagandha? Maybe I don't know. But apparently there's a plethora of plants out there.
Food is medicine. Awake A 100%. And you're talking about Josh.
You start there.
Axe on YouTube. 100%, y'all. And you know what? They hate that is a thing. They meaning the status quo, because they call people who want to eat healthy a lot, they call that a disease too. So, they're just trying to put people in a box to lock them up or, cage them up or.
And let's look at this is, my creativity has been stimulated. So let's, consider, as your father is often want to say, consider the negative effects that come from things such as alcohol or opium or heroin, rather, come from a isolation or a distillation process, removing the plant from its original state and concentrating the stuff. Alcohol is a distillation of the grains of things. Wine is a fermentation. Heroin is a product of the opium, which people smoked and worked on opium for hundreds and hundreds, and I would venture thousands of years, smoking opium for medicinal, if you will, or other purposes. It's genetically proven that Homo sapiens are genetically inclined to alter their consciousness. I think that's pretty much been established science. I'm not sure who from, but sounds good. I think I heard that. I think I heard Paul Stamets, it's Andrew Weil. I heard say that. That's who I heard say that. And take what you will from that. But I respect and find Andrew Weil to be a pretty damn good source of alternative ways of looking at healing. And he also owns Maui's only cannabis farm and dispensary, apparently. Which is interesting because he believes cannabis is medicine as well. As many plants are. Can plants kill you? Sure. That's what, 250,000 years of trial and error has gotten us. And quite frankly, that's how it's gotten us to where we are. If you follow the stoned ape theory, that we're where we are, not from killing animals and eating its protein over an open fire.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing.
Which is one of the arguments, right? As to how we ended up being evolved to our level. Was, we've learned how to cook our meat and eat more of it. But cannabis grew up literally evolved alongside human beings. Everywhere cannabis is found, it's found near human settlements, as far as archaeologically speaking. So the plant literally is evolving with humans. It's part of humans, just like mushrooms. We are part of mushrooms. I mean, we all are come from mushrooms were around longer before cannabis or humans. We basically are, our ancestors are mushrooms. So we are plants, just not, we're way too smart for our own good. We think we are anyway.
Yeah. We have much to learn.
We have much to learn and
much to watch.
Mushrooms and cannabis need to be part of it. Listen, you know, I think their biggest fear with cannabis and keeping control of it and keeping it away from people and not letting people grow it on their own. I mean, they tried to keep mushrooms out of alcohol back in the day. The church was like, no, you don't want that in there. You don't want people really expanding their mind. We just want them. We just want them drunk enough.
Stay small.
On the weekends, able to go back to work on Monday.
That's right. And sick enough.
To
stay stuck in the system, so they have to go back to work on Monday.
And too sick to ask any questions. And too controlled.
Yeah.
So,
it's the theme of the show.
Growing plants, growing cannabis is a revolutionary act.
Yep.
Eating because plants. They all want to stop us from growing the plants.
And eating plants.
Well, you can't.
It's a revolutionary act.
You can't have public gardens either.
Yeah.
Public gardens are verboten in most cities.
Yeah.
Try to grow something on the side of your house.
In the median?
In the median, yeah. Where your sidewalk is, you know?
Cannot.
On the other side where the sidewalk is, where there's grass.
Or front yard
or
gardens.
Something. Put up a community garden out in front of your apartment building. See how long it stays there. And it won't be taken down by hoodlums or people in the neighborhood. It'll be taken down by the government because they're illegal in most cities. It's a revolutionary act to grow anything, and growing cannabis is part of it, and apparently smoking cannabis is part of it as well.
Yep.
Because you can't do it anywhere where they're legalizing it. It's becoming more illegal. You can grow 6 plants in California as long as your neighbors don't see it and complain about it. And even if it's on property that you own. If your neighbor sees it and doesn't like it, it's a nuisance.
Yeah.
Smell. If they smell it.
Get the fuck out of here.
More legal. Prohibition 2.0. New reefer madness are going hand in hand. This is what we were watching for. This is what we're talking about on the show.
Yep.
This is what we're exposing. Let's expose a little of
it,
shall we?
Our work continues. Yes.
That was a great story. A great, inspiring 13-year-old revolutionary. Moving this forward. Let's look at the dual Fox stories, shall we? Fox Business, of course. They're into business. They're into business of cannabis. Kind of business. So their stories tend to be handled more evenly and with more liberté, as it were. And we were talking about Kennedy and Representative Matt Gaetz, and he was on the show this week and talking about the stupid Republicans that are stopping research. So he's got his own battles. Let's take a look at both of these stories. We're going to roll through 2 Fox stories. Kennedy and...
Can you play Tucker. The yucky one first and end with Kennedy? First? Yeah.
Okay, we'll do Tucker first.
I hate the Tucker one. It's shitty. And we'll end with Kennedy. She's cool.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But we'll watch both. Okay, so we're going to start with Kennedy. All right, stand by.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to respond to something.
To some chats while I rearrange this.
Who said this? Cannabis sativa. No public smoking, but public smoking of cigs, A-OK. In California.
Oh, yes.
If you are a medical cannabis patient, as I am, as Dave is, you can smoke anywhere that cigarettes can be smoked. So it's a good idea that if you do use cannabis medicinally, even a little bit, even just sometimes, you should go ahead and get your medical qualification if that doesn't fuck up the rest of your life. Like if you're a gun owner or if you have children, there might be issues that you may not want to deal with, but you figure it out for yourself. But if you are in a clear zone, it's a good idea that if you use cannabis medically, to go ahead and there's a medical program in your state to go ahead and become a medical user so that, there's more cred given to cannabis as medicine, because it is. Are you ready? You still messing around over there? Okay, do it in whatever order you want. That's fine. I don't care.
Okay, we're good. I got
attached to it. It's fine.
I'm good.
It's all good.
I'm good.
Go on.
No, it got screwed up when I started messing with it. I shouldn't have messed with it. I should have just played it. Okay,
it's
here we
fine.
go.
Go on.
All right, we're gonna watch that, and then we'll get into the AG. Okay, so here is. Okay, get ready, everybody.
I'm gonna step out. I'm gonna go for a snack.
We need to talk about this.
I know we're going to
Let's
talk
watch
about it.
these
Okay,
two
fine.
Fox stories and how they handled this.
I'm going to get some ice cream.
Okay, sounds good. Here we go.
Well, every election cycle, you probably notice, more states legalize marijuana. It could soon be legal nationwide, likely will be. But with drug abuse of all kinds soaring and American youth falling apart, is legalization a good idea? And what exactly do we know about marijuana? David Bienenstock is the author of How to Smoke Pot Properly and co-host of the podcast Great Moments in Weed History. David, thank you very much for coming on. So I guess the first thing I noticed, there was a really interesting piece this week by Malcolm Gladwell in The New Yorker. I'm sure you read it. And it asked, and he's kind of agnostic, I think, about the question of marijuana, but he made the point that we really don't know that much about the health effects of marijuana. Most of the claims made by its proponents are unproven. But the CDC does say that there is a relationship between marijuana use and rising schizophrenia rates and violence. So why should we legalize something that we know causes schizophrenia?
Well, I mean, the first thing we need to understand is cannabis is objectively safer than many substances that are legal. Alcohol, tobacco, many pharmaceutical drugs. To get to your point about the book...
I'm sorry. Can we pause for a second? How do we know that it's safer than alcohol and tobacco, since I don't really think we know very much about it? I mean, most drugs that we've been studying nicotine for hundreds of years and alcohol for thousands, we don't really know that much about them. So why do we say we know that when we don't really know that?
We can compare the number of people who die from each substance every year. Hundreds of thousands of people from alcohol and tobacco and 0 people from cannabis. So, just as a shorthand,
no, that's not actually
been
true.
A death attributed to cannabis. Absolutely,
really, there have been many
Saying
deaths
something's not true.
Well, I'm going to. If it is true, as the CDC says, that cannabis use looks like it causes or spurs.
What is a lethal dose of cannabis, Tucker? What is a lethal dose?
If it causes
How much do you have to
schizophrenia,
consume?
hold on. What percentage of people with schizophrenia? Right. No, I'm saying you're looking at it wrong. If weed smoking causes schizophrenia, and there's a suggestion that it does, schizophrenia kills lots of people. And so does suicide, and so does violence. And if marijuana use hikes rates of violence, and it seems like there's a lot of evidence that it does, then that kills people. So the question is not do they die from lung cancer, the question is do they die from suicide or violence? And those are real questions, and you don't know the answers to them. So why are you saying it's totally safe when you don't know that that's true?
I did not say it's totally safe. That's a ridiculous standard. Strenuous exercise can lead to a heart attack that's fatal. Right. Drinking too much water can be fatal. I think you need to understand the difference between correlation and causation.
I do understand the difference.
The author of the book, apparently you don't.
No, I do. And what I understand most of all is the basic precept of science, which is we don't know something until we prove it. And almost nothing about marijuana has been proven. So why are you acting like we know when we don't?
This is what's proven to be harmful, Tucker. Arresting 600,000 Americans every year for making the choice to use a substance that's objectively safer than alcohol. And doing it in a way that targets the poor and minorities disproportionately is devastating to those communities.
But you're making
but I'm not
arguing. But you're missing. I'm not arguing in favor of that. You're making a parallel argument and
so you don't want to arrest anybody for cannabis?
I'm always for unfair application of the law. I'm always for hassling people for things that aren't really bothering others. But that's not really the question. So I've never been for, rousting people from their homes for smoking weed. I'm totally against that. But that's very different from legalizing it everywhere, which increases the rate of kids smoking weed. And if it really does cause schizophrenia, I should be really afraid of that, no?
Well, youth use is down in the states that have legalized, first of all. And second of all, if it's not going to be legalized, answer me this. Who's going to grow and sell this cannabis? Where is it going to magically appear from if not through a regulated, taxed industry? If my aunt in Kansas comes down with cancer, where am I going to send her to buy a safe, lab-tested medical cannabis product to save her life? In your system. Who grows and sells the cannabis?
I thought it was the U.S. government grew it in Mississippi for years, as you know. I mean,
for 7 people, Tucker. For 7 people.
Okay, I get it, but it's not impossible to imagine. Hold on.
So who's going to grow and sell it in your system?
Again, you're throwing another red herring into the argument and evading the question.
That's not a red herring.
If we use opioids legally, they're prescribed by physicians. It doesn't mean the average person can buy opium. So you could have controlled marijuana growing for its medicinal properties, which I'm willing to believe exist. I'm just saying you're talking about legalizing it, which means many more kids will smoke it. And if it causes schizophrenia, it should scare the hell out of us. But it doesn't seem to bother you because, I don't know, what, you're taking money from them or something? Why doesn't that bother you?
Tucker, you know, you're the one on here repeating old lies, old distortions, debunked claims. The author of the book that you had on last week, everything he said has been completely debunked. I don't know if you read my article on Leafly. I assume that's why you had me on.
No.
But many of the people in the studies that he cited have gone on Twitter to say you grossly misrepresented our findings.
Okay,
the National Academy of Medicine
I'm not an expert in this.
The author said you misrepresented. You're not an expert, but you're supposed to do your job.
No.
You're supposed to learn about these things. Did you read my article
wait
where
a second.
I debunked all of this?
Let me ask you one. Let me send up one question. This is my real concern is schizophrenia because I think it's such a terrible disease and we can't cure it and a lot of people die from it. It's horrible, as you know. Is it untrue, do you think, that marijuana use looks like it could increase the rate of schizophrenia? Is that a fake statistic? It's a sincere question to you.
I'd say, you know, we need to know more and we should know more, but having you and authors come on and just confuse causation and correlation does no one a good service.
I'm asking you a sincere question, and you don't seem to be interested in answering it.
Here's my sincere answer. We've had societies where the rates of cannabis use has gone way up, and the rates of schizophrenia have not gone up at all. So to me, that would put a lot of cold water on your idea that there is an epidemic of violence and schizophrenia.
I thought you were just lecturing me about causation and correlation, but then isn't that what you're doing? Okay, look, it's an open. I have zero interest in banning anything. I just think that we don't know that much. I don't think you really know anything.
Why did you have me on
and
if
you're
you have zero
pretending that you
interest in
do?
debating me?
Yeah, I was debating you. We're out of time. David, thank you. I appreciate your coming on.
Welcome back. The National Safety Council says opioids are now more likely to kill people than car crashes. And in 2017 alone, they killed a staggering 70,000 Americans. Just this month, the state of Massachusetts is suing the makers of OxyContin, alleging the company, Purdue Pharma, pushed higher doses of the addictive painkiller. So how do we fix all of this? Yesterday, Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz introduced the Medical Cannabis Research Act of 2019. The legislation aims to unlock the, quote, potential to research the cures offered by medical cannabis, among them opioid addiction, not to mention certain seizure disorders. Congressman Gaetz joins me once again. Welcome back, sir.
Oh, thank you, Kennedy. And the problem with the federal government's response to the opioid problem is that they always think the answer is more government and not more freedom. And when we look in states that have had medical marijuana programs, in Minnesota, for example, we saw a 38% reduction in opioid use. In New Mexico, there was a 70% reduction in all scheduled drugs that were used once patients had access to medical cannabis. So it seems like a no-brainer to me. I just don't know why it's taken the federal government so long to recognize what's so obvious.
Well, what's interesting is you have a president whose reflexes seem to be going toward criminal justice reform and deregulation, but then he appoints another attorney general who obviously has great personal disdain for cannabis. And when William Barr was asked about it, he even said, you know, you have to have one uniform law, and his desire would be that marijuana stays federally illegal and scheduled so harshly. So you have a few roadblocks to overcome before you can unleash the power that only medical research will give you.
I think it'll be a lot easier when the White House is actually talking to the Department of Justice because of the Russia investigation. That relationship was so chilled that normal direction that a White House could give the department, allowing states to be able to experiment and really realize the full federalist model where they could try different things and best practices would emerge. I think that you're going to see more of that direction coming from the White House. In every conversation I've had with the president about medical cannabis, he's been very supportive, but Jeff Sessions did so much to get in the way, we really couldn't get the ball rolling.
No, I understand, and I don't know that
though.
William Barr will be that much better, and obviously in Congress, there should be enough Republicans and Democrats that you should be able to reschedule it. So what's more important, rescheduling it or having legislation like this that allows more than one research institution to figure out what you can reasonably do with the plant?
I think that research is what unlocks more acceptance, particularly by the older Republicans in Congress who have typically blocked cannabis reform. Descheduling makes a ton of sense. I've co-sponsored legislation to do that, but a lot of the older Republicans say, well, there's not enough research to justify rescheduling.
Isn't that unreal?
And then they stand in the way of the research.
Yes.
So it's so stupid to say, like, we won't allow common sense proposals because there's not enough research, and then they have laws that block the research. So again, I just think we should act like adults here. Republicans and Democrats ought to be able to work on this together. And at least Mr. Barr in his confirmation hearing said he wouldn't do what Jeff Sessions did, and that is threaten the programs that are actually helping people get off deadly opioids in states all across the country.
Yeah,
what a great solution. More freedom for people.
We talked about this the other night. When people do have a legitimate and legal alternative, they'll, it shows that they will go to that first before they go to illegal opioids where they don't know what's in it. And when heroin is saturated with fentanyl, but even people who know that, addiction is a disease. And, that is something that we have learned. And that's, I don't know how much neuroscience Purdue Pharma had done before they were making the statements that they did about OxyContin, but that stuff is offensive.
Yeah, it really is, and they're going to be held to account for that conduct. But at the end of the day, the best way to fight addiction is to not get people addicted in the first place.
Yes.
And so if you have lower likelihood of addiction with something natural like medical cannabis, our government should be rushing to make that available to people rather than having stupid laws in effect that are related to antiquated dogmas rather than modern research.
Yeah, and expensive drugs that Medicare has to pay for seniors, and help veterans with PTSD and anxiety and other chronic conditions. Matt Gaetz, thank you for your work. I appreciate it. Good to talk to you.
Main issues Attorney General nominee William Barr was asked about in his confirmation hearing on Tuesday, and during his first term as Attorney General, Barr helped lead President George H.W. Bush's war on drugs. Since he left office, 10 states and D.C. have legalized recreational use of marijuana. 33 states have legalized medical marijuana. Here's what Barr had to say about his current stance.
Current situation is untenable and really has to be addressed. It's almost like a backdoor nullification of federal law. To me, it's a binary choice. Either we have a federal law that applies to everybody.
And so I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir, but how would you address that? Well, do you think it's appropriate to use federal resources to target, marijuana businesses that are in compliance with state laws?
No, I said that. Yeah. That's what I said. I'm not going to go after companies that have relied on the Cole memorandum. However, we either should have a federal law that prohibits marijuana everywhere, which I would support myself, because I think it's a mistake to back off on marijuana. However, if we want a federal approach, if we want states to have their own laws, then let's get there, and let's get there the right way.
Eric Altieri is the executive director of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, and he joins me now from Washington, D.C. So, Eric, why don't we start with Barr saying that he would not go after companies that rely on the core memorandum. It's an Obama-era policy that former Attorney General Jeff Sessions actually rescinded. Are you confident that the federal government will not affect businesses in these states where marijuana is already legal if Barr makes it through and is confirmed?
Well, it's very encouraging to hear Barr say that he would stand by the Cole memo, because clearly the former Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, who was extremely anti-marijuana and made a lot of threats towards the industry and towards legalized states, as you mentioned, rescinded that memo. So it's encouraging, but we do need to remain vigilant to keep him to hold his word to the American people that he made there to Congress. It is incredibly important that they do, given how popular it is as a policy and how many states have changed their laws already.
You know, you mentioned that it's important to remain vigilant. Barr's also said that he personally supports a federal law banning marijuana. Are you concerned that Barr might slow legalization efforts?
Well, honestly, it really falls to Congress at this point to take the initiative and to deschedule marijuana entirely from the Controlled Substances Act. So the 47 states that currently aren't in compliance with that act don't have this untenable situation with the federal government. Sure, he could try to slow walk it through the Justice Department, but this is really on Congress. And he does find himself in a dwindling minority on this topic. Recent polling shows that about 68% of all Americans support ending prohibition and legalizing marijuana for adult use. There's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube on this one. The American people want to end our failed prohibition, and any attempts to really slow that down or stop it will be incredibly unpopular across all party lines and demographics.
So you say public sentiment's on your side. What has your organization done to really push forward on this issue of legalizing marijuana?
Well, NORML has been around since 1970. We're about to turn 50 years old. We have over 165 chapters across the country that work at the local and state level, lobbying their legislators and organizing average Americans in grassroots movements. We also work here in Washington, D.C., lobbying at the federal level to finally end this disastrous prohibition that has really ruined so many lives in this country.
I want to read you an excerpt from a new book called Tell Your Children the Truth About Marijuana, Mental Illness, and Violence. It's by Alex Berenson, and it argues that legislation and perception in the U.S. has gone ahead of science, that marijuana is, and I'm quoting here, the growth has happened in the face of powerful new evidence that marijuana can be deeply harmful to mental health. What's your response to that?
Well, anyone can really cherry pick data to sell their book. Unfortunately for him, that the science is not on his side, nor is the experience in this country, where we do have 10 states with legal marijuana and well over 30 states with medical programs of some sort. It is not shown to have the problems that he's ascribing to it, and that is based on hard data that we have from research and from the states themselves. Also, that is not a knock against legalization if you have concerns about it. Prohibition is defined by the absolute lack of control of marijuana. If you have concerns about its use, particularly with youth and other health concerns, the answer is to regulate it and have those controls, not to leave it in the hands of criminal elements completely unregulated in back alleys and street corners.
Eric Altieri, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Full bag alert.
Full bag, full bag.
Full bag alert.
Full bag.
Okay.
Windbag alert is that Tucker Carlson. Nobody likes him. We don't have to talk about him too long. We've already talked about him enough.
Yeah, interesting dichotomy there. The Tucker and Kennedy.
I like Kennedy. She's cool. But yeah, that guy was way too nuanced and debatey. He needed to come on with some fast facts, and 70 years of prohibition have proven cannabis safe. And, cannabis has never killed anyone and things like that. Some quick, flashy facts, not nuanced debate, which he's great at that and it's awesome. But Tucker Carlson's not that guy. You got to talk to your audience in the language they can understand.
Tucker had his talking points on this one, and that was about it.
Yeah, of course. And that's why the other guy had to come matched with the talking point. That's what it had to be, and it was not good.
And I absolutely hate agreeing with Matt Gaetz.
Oh, it's terrible.
Because I don't really agree with him on a lot of stuff.
No, but strange bedfellows is cannabis. I'm gonna go mute so that I can chew this thing.
Oh, you're chewing your vegan Robs? Maybe vegan stuff. Chela's moved on to savory. I'm still on. I just finished an ice cream bar. And we got another bag. You got your bag of puffs, and I have my bag of puffs. I love doing this show. Holy cannabis oil. Think about it, people. The only thing that has happened since legalization started, America is waking up. The CIA and Project Mockingbird are failing. Oh, interesting reference. The last man was very professional, rational, educated. Good job. Yes, that was NORML. NORML's great at pushing legalization, tax, and regulate. That's one of the criticisms of National NORML, is that it's very pro tax and regulated, not pro liberty. You know, if they literally took it off the CESA, don't put it anywhere else, because HR 420, that's what that does. Blumenauer's bill takes it from the CSA, takes it off, takes it away from the DEA, and puts it into the ATF under the Treasury Department, which is what moonshine used to be under. That's where it came from. The ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, was, you know, the Treasury Department was going after moonshiners. No. So I think, right? But yes, so they have guns. They have guns too, and the FDA. And the FDA is raiding hemp stores at this point and taking all of their hemp CBD products off the shelf in some localities. So if you just take it off of all control, if you were to unleash the control on this plant, liberty, and give liberty and let people grow it in their house, sell it at the farmer's market, give it to their friends, take it across the country with them on their vacation, take it with them wherever they go to visit their grandma in Texas, or their friends in Vegas, take their own stuff, pick up some stuff from your friend where he's growing it, wherever you're at. You watch. Then it's like, oh yeah, you can get a pound of weed for $40 at the farmer's market next Saturday. Come on down, we'll get some for you. Cool, awesome. What's going to happen? Well, the prohibitionists would think everybody in the country would turn into schizophrenic killers.
Now, if that were so, wouldn't you think that? Oh wait. If that were so, wouldn't you think that New York City would be run amok with schizophrenics and Los Angeles?
Well, someone said there are already.
Who?
The middle of the country might say that already, but
I suppose you're right.
Yeah.
But what's the definition of schizophrenia? Isn't that multiple personality disorder?
I think it's all a big marketing ploy for Glass. Now, the movie called Glass about the guy who meds like 40 different, amazing actor, English actor, I should know his name, that plays like 40 different characters, schizophrenic, if you will. So I think it's all immediate. It's all part of the zeitgeist. Mm-hmm. It's all part of the zeitgeist that's being created around cannabis by the mainstream. And we talked about Murder Mountain 2 weeks ago. Netflix series.
There's a giant push to scare people away from using cannabis, like Brando was saying, the weed commando on Daily Dope Show this week, when he did such a great job at tearing apart these ridiculous articles. It's to keep control. So whatever, it's fine. Ignore that shit. Just like you should be ignoring 45's ridiculous tweets. Ignore that shit and keep focused on what you want to see in the world. Give CBD to your friends who are suffering. Somehow, some way, convince them. Don't sneak it. Convince them. Show them articles. Go to projectcbd.org and find articles that are relevant to the argument you're trying to make. And like for one person, one loved one that I know, whom I adore, I'm trying to get them to understand how healing CBD is. And despite my imploring them to go to projectcbd.org, they refuse. No one is a prophet in their own homeland. I'm just saying. So I have to print out these stories. I have to literally highlight all the things and send it in the care packages I send to my loved one, in order for them to maybe start to see and hear what I'm saying. You know, you find your way that works for you. That's all.
Tell it, sister.
That's all.
Bonnie Lee says.
Thanks, Bonnie Lee.
MPD is different than schizophrenia. Yes, thank you, Blaster Master. That's right. So mixed up my DSM stuff. Yeah, different stuff. But the
coastal people have always been loony.
Hey, listen, we came out to the coast. We came, came out here to make up stories and get high and make movies. It's totally embraced above the line here in Hollywood. You know?
Above the line, yes. Below the line, you're severely judged if you use cannabis.
Mr. Sparkle, hope everyone has had a wonderful weekend. We have indeed. It's been very exciting. Very, very lots of things going on. The Mr. Sparkle would also like to know what the vegan puffs are made out
Yeah, sorghum flour mostly.
So what is it?
Sorghum flour.
Oh, I thought they were made from dehydrated vegan fingers.
No,
Fingers of
sorghum flour, organic sunflower or safflower oil, tapioca, maltodextrin, sea salt, natural flavors, onion powder, lactic acid, malic acid, but it's vegan and gluten-free and so delicious. I buy 2 bags at a time.
It's a processed treat.
It's a totally processed, thing that is not something that I think that I should eat all the time, but sometimes I eat them. I mostly eat whole vegetables and whole plants. That is what I eat most of the time. And sometimes I eat these things because they're delicious and fun.
Coach Chela
And
provides...
life is important to be fun, right?
Chela provides whole plant-based...
Supportive wellness. I do. I think it's important to live life, but eat mostly plants. Mostly.
And,
enjoy your life, but eat mostly plants.
Oh, sugar was the other thing that they've taken from a plant and concentrated it, right?
Yeah, that's true too.
And in all of its forms.
Yeah.
Corn syrup.
Sugar.
White sugar.
Yep.
Even syrups, even maple syrups. But it's
No,
basically
maple syrup is maple syrup from the tree,
right, it's
and
concentrated.
real maple syrup, but not like Aunt Jemima or anything like that. And honey is honey. Those things have minerals in them.
Honey is bee
Sugar
puke.
does not.
Honey's
and that's
bee
the
puke.
thing. Anyway.
Honeybees are slaves. That's a whole other thing. The bees. You know what can save the bees? Mushrooms.
Anyway, play another story.
All
Excuse
right,
me,
we're
or else
done
we're
with
going to be here all night.
We're moving into the regions.
New York.
We're blowing off Canada this week, eh?
Okay.
Sorry, hosers. Take off.
Canada's bad news. Canada has a lot of work to do.
They're playing games and all their different
Bad shenanigans,
lotteries and
bad news,
It's
bad.
hilarious. So that's going to be a big
It's a terrible rollout
clusterfuck.
of the legalization. It's
Wow.
just bullshit.
They just have, and who's done it right yet? Anybody? Uruguay? I don't know.
I haven't heard problems about Uruguay. We're going to look into that though and find out. Let's play the East Coast block.
Honey has been connected
Honey. It's
to
true.
mushrooms. That's a whole interesting theory. Honey is a whole different. Yes, honey is a very ancient thing.
Yeah, the vegans don't like honey.
The vegans don't. The vegans don't like honey.
That's okay. Everybody, there's a place for every opinion. It's all good. Please, let's play the East Coast block.
Yeah, it's
getting
mushrooms.
past
Paul
my
Stamets'
bedtime
block.
already.
Okay, we're going to the east, south or east. Let's go to the south.
Okay.
Bonnie's been very active.
Okay.
Let's go south.
All right.
We don't have Alabama, but we do.
There are
have
lots
southern
of people.
stories.
Is anybody here in the East Coast? Play the South. Go.
Okay, here we go. And we start in. I guess I should turn the volume up.
Oh no,
before
never
I
mind.
play Steve Martin.
Okay.
There it is.
He'll enjoy Oklahoma's wide open spaces. He loves to run and run and
Hold on for one of the wildest stories we've ever heard. It begins with small-town police in Oklahoma pulling over a tractor trailer headed for Colorado. They think they have one of the largest marijuana busts in history, 17,000 pounds. The drivers explain it's just industrial hemp, the stuff that won't get you high. It's not marijuana. The police don't believe them. So 4 people, including a cannabis company founder from Colorado, get locked up facing drug trafficking charges that could bring 15 years to life.
You can see these 60 boxes filled to the brim with marijuana.
The mega marijuana bust made the local news in Oklahoma. Tantalizing visuals and a shocking claim that drug runners didn't even try to disguise the contents of the semi-truck coming through the small town of Pawhuska. But is that what really happened? Andrew Ross of Aurora was in that second van. He's with Patriot Shield, veterans providing security services to the cannabis industry.
I run a veteran-owned company. This is absolutely important.
Ross, a colleague, and 2 drivers are facing aggravated trafficking of marijuana charges that could bring 15 to life. There's a simple way to clear this up. A lab test for THC to tell if this is harmless hemp, as they say, or one of the boldest marijuana smuggling runs of all time. but an attorney for one of the men says that federal drug labs nearby are closed for the government shutdown, so he doesn't know when they'll receive the tests back. Meanwhile, his clients are still in jail in Oklahoma. Ross, the Coloradan in the group, the guy with the beard, he posted his $40,000 bond tonight. A Louisville-based company tells us that was their $500,000 load of hemp coming here for processing. They say they specifically got assurances from the Oklahoma Department of Transportation that they were aware of the federal law and there was no issue bringing it through Oklahoma. This is a complicated and crazy story, so before this one blows up, let's step back and consider the scenarios. Scenario one, it really was industrial hemp on board, totally legal. That police department thought it had the bust of the century and was completely wrong. And if we're going to Occam's razor this thing and say the simplest explanation is the best, that's the one you have to go with. Because otherwise, you have to believe that they were really trucking 17,000 pounds of black market weed across the country and giving Oklahoma a heads up that it was coming through. And then there's one final possibility, and this would be a wild one. What if the hemp wasn't fully or properly tested before it was shipped? It comes back from those lab tests high for THC, then that means that those guys were transporting an illegal product and did not even know it. Stay tuned. This is a wild one, and it's just getting started.
Parents, a big change is on the way for Oklahoma City Public Schools. The district has now voted this week to allow medical marijuana on school grounds.
Our Grant Herms joins us now with what is and is not allowed. Grant, good morning.
Well, good morning. This is a big step for OKCPS. Now, despite being the largest school district in the state, officials did wait for some time before passing this policy. According to the new policy, the district will begin allowing students to be given medical marijuana by a caregiver on school grounds. School staff, though, like the school nurse, will not be allowed to give students their prescribed medicine. The new policy also says schools will provide a private place for students to receive their medical marijuana just as long as it is given by a caregiver, and topical or oral smokable marijuana will still be banned from district grounds.
We went along with what a lot of districts are doing in the state, which is to allow the caregiver with the license from doctors and the state to administer the marijuana to those students on campus.
Now, this new policy does mirror what's been happening in other districts around the state, meaning it does not extend to faculty or staff. While employees cannot be punished for having a medical marijuana license, the policy says, quote, employees cannot use or possess marijuana while at school or during school hours, even if they have a medical marijuana license. Live on the scene on the story in Northeast Oklahoma City, Grant Herms, News 9.
Grant, thank you.
All right. Max Strong with My Florida Green here with our patient of ours, Gary. I had a 7-month recheck, so I had a chance to talk about your symptoms, to see the incredible progress you made on many different levels. From a weight loss perspective as well, over 100 pounds down since his last checkup. So much for the lazy stoners sitting around and like eating, and getting much better results versus the synthetics. So would love to hear it from you, man. What were things like when you came in, and how you doing now?
That was it. It was a pre-operation. I had to get a new liver, and this took place before I had, and thankfully that this was available to me to be able to come down and get a license for medicinal marijuana.
Yeah, and you said that when you left the hospital, the pain relief was
absolutely zero. I think I had one. My first evening was their synthetic painkillers that they had. Mm-hmm. After that, it was not necessary for me at all. I mean,
and you were already
pain, but it really helped with every step of this process.
Yeah, and you mentioned you were already pretty leery of the synthetics and opiates. And
yeah, something of that. It's
right. You know the risks.
Not my bit. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of people are dead because of opiates. The last number I saw was since 1999, 700,000 people are gone because of prescription drug-related deaths. So it's a phenomenal testament to to you and to this incredible plant. So really appreciate you sharing your story. And if you're suffering, if you're in a variety of different conditions, if you don't want to take the synthetics, medical marijuana and My Florida Green, we really appreciate it, Gary. We'll take good care of you. My Florida Green. All right. Thank you, Gary.
Awesome.
Smoking medical marijuana may soon be legal in Florida. That's the promise of Governor Ron DeSantis. As Jake Stofan tells us, the governor has plans to take action if lawmakers fail to act when the legislative session starts in March.
When 71% of voters approved medical marijuana in 2016, many thought smoking would be an option for patients. The legislature had other ideas.
They voted for medical marijuana. They did not vote specifically for what form it comes in.
Lawmakers' decision to outlaw smoking spurred amendment author John Morgan to file his No Smoke is a Joke lawsuit.
There are 500,000 people, sick people today, that are counting on this.
A circuit court agreed with Morgan, ruling the state's ban on smoking was unconstitutional. The state appealed, blocking that ruling from taking effect until now. Governor Ron DeSantis says he'll drop the appeal if the legislature doesn't change the law to allow smoking by mid-March.
Whether they have to smoke it or not, who am I to judge that? I want people to be able to have their suffering relieved.
Senator Rob Bradley, the author of the law, says DeSantis is on the right track.
I was put into law for some very good, solid policy reasons, but it is starting to get the feel of something of an issue that we probably need to move past.
Medical marijuana advocates agree if the change actually happens.
People can say all kinds of things, so I'm going to remain cautiously optimistic.
The announcement also has medical marijuana business advocates rejoicing. They believe it's the first step towards dropping appeals in other cases, like the limitation on the number of growers' licenses. Reporting from the state capitol, Jake Stofan, Channel 4, the local station.
On Thursday, Governor Ron DeSantis announced his administration is dropping its lawsuit against the state's ban on smoking marijuana. The DeSantis also called the legislator to quickly address the issue that patients can fully get benefits of medical marijuana treatment. Joining us this morning, Robert Simmons, a consultant for medical marijuana, and Dr. Terrell Newton, an anesthesiologist who writes medical marijuana recommendations. And we are talking about this news this morning. It's shocking because, yes, this was overwhelmingly passed, but it's taken a long time to get here. So what's next?
Over 71% during that election, and we're happy that DeSantis is actually, the governor, moved in this direction.
Are you surprised at all by this move?
I would say no, because one of the things in terms of raising the awareness, and John Morgan has done, is he's been persistent in fighting for this, and it's good to see that our next governor is going to actually support the patients getting the medicine.
So what are the benefits of medical marijuana?
So medical marijuana has tremendous benefits. For cancer patients, it can help with the pain and suffering. It can help with nausea, and in some cases actually slow the progression of the cancer. For post-traumatic stress and anxiety, it offers a more holistic alternative. And for epilepsy, it can slow the progression and in some cases completely stop seizure activities.
I actually did a story with a man who had epilepsy, and he said that he couldn't really interact with his children. And once he went, decided to go to the medical marijuana route, he said it was a game changer for him. Is this what you're hearing from patients?
Oh, absolutely. It happens. We hear that a lot in this industry.
So how long is it going to take for this actually to happen, right?
Well,
it's always a process.
Well, it's a process. Right now, there's a little over 162,000 registered patients.
Wow.
And it's one of those things where, we have to first figure out, okay, what's the next step in terms of, ending the former governor's plan to restrict the smoked cannabis. Mm-hmm. The other issue at hand is that edibles, which is the whole flower, that is another part of what many patients advocate for. And once we have the whole flower and there's less processing of the medication, that'll actually bring the price down some.
So for people considering medical marijuana, what should they know?
Well, they should know that medical marijuana is a low-risk alternative for chronic pain. They should also know that in order to become a qualified patient, you have to connect with a physician that's registering patients. So patients have an ID card when they get registered, and then they can go to any dispensary that they choose and fill their recommendation.
Some people out there may think, how could that work? I can't believe this. What would you say to the doubters out there?
I tell you, the stigma is really changing now. It's not like it was in the 70s where, you attach cannabis to just
with a party.
Yeah, it's actually a medicine. It actually helps people. People are being helped with this, So, yeah, the stigma is definitely changing.
And you all have an event actually coming up to kind of help educate people.
Yes, January 23rd, which is next Wednesday. It's the Splash of Green Green Tie Fair. And basically, we have all the dispensaries on board. The physicians are coming. Anything you need to know about cannabis, it's open to the public. It's free. You can come there. It's at Cuba Libre. It starts at 6:30 to 9:30. And I encourage everyone to come out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who have questions now that the ball seems to be rolling in this direction.
Correct.
Thank you both for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And more for that on newsforjax.com.
Governor Greg Abbott and the new Speaker of the Texas House have laid out their priorities for the session, but there is a group of bills on another topic getting a lot of attention online. What would it take to loosen the laws on marijuana in Texas? Molly Oak asked that question to an expert. Molly, what are we looking at?
Well, Mike, right now we have about a dozen bills and resolutions dealing with marijuana or cannabis products. The two big ideas, expanding medicinal use and decriminalization possession of small amounts of pot. And just looking at this map, Texas is in the minority, with more than 30 states legalizing marijuana in some form or fashion. We talked to Jim Henson, the director of the Texas Politics Project. Henson says they polled people last summer to get their thoughts and says at the end of the day, Texas is still a conservative state. So even though he says public opinion is moving, he says there's still work to be done with elected officials and interest groups that oppose legalization. Henson did say this isn't the first session we've seen some marijuana bills and likely won't be the last. So even though we probably won't see full legalization anytime soon, he says the bills that talk about decriminalization or medicinal use test the waters for future laws.
Either some of these bills get a little bit further in the process than they have in the past, or maybe you get another very small opening like we saw with CBD oils in previous sessions. But I think the leadership and the critical mass is not quite there for full passage.
Basically, he thinks while they may get some traction, he doesn't see any of the bills making it to the finish line this time around. But he says that's expected because it tends to take multiple sessions for bills to get some traction. For a closer look at the bills in this session, head to KVUE.com. In the studio, Molly Oak, KVUE News.
And good evening now. We begin tonight at the State House. That is where several lawmakers are looking to gain support for a medical marijuana bill. 4 years in the making. They believe this year they will get it passed. News 19's Lauren Thomas joins us with more.
Senator Tom Davis of Beaufort County held a press conference this afternoon introducing his medical marijuana bill. It's called the South Carolina Compassionate Care Act, and it has gone through 4 years of subcommittee hearings and more than 100 hours of testimony, but has never passed. However, he says this year he's confident that it will.
It is, I am confident to say, the most strictly regulated, socially conservative medical cannabis bill in the United States.
Last session, the bill did not make the cut, so they made some tweaks. So here's what it includes. The proposed bill will allow up to 2 ounces of medical cannabis in forms of vaporized flower or oil, gel caps, suppositories, patches, edibles, or topical creams. However, smoking cannabis is not allowed.
Each step of the process, from the growing to the processing to the dispensing, is monitored in real time, constantly by DHEC and SLED.
They will use something called seed-to-sale tracking technology. That means at any time, law enforcement would know where the product is and who should legally have it. Under the proposal, someone could face a $5,000 fine, 5 years in jail, or both if the marijuana is dispensed for recreational use. So who will be allowed to use medical marijuana? According to the bill, it will be for people with medical conditions including cancer, multiple sclerosis, a neurological disease, PTSD, glaucoma, Crohn's disease, sickle cell anemia, or chronic diseases for which an opioid is currently prescribed.
I've had a daughter, my oldest daughter, who had some severe epilepsy issues at the age of 6 months old.
State Representative Peter McCoy filed a House version of the bill to gain support and says the way the bill is written, it will not lead to recreational marijuana use.
I'm not for recreational use. This is for medicinal purposes only, and this is for helping South Carolinians.
Currently, the bill has been referred to the Medical Affairs Committee. If passed, it will go to the full Senate for a vote. In Columbia, Lauren Thomas, News 19, WLTX.
Well, last year, the Compassionate Care Act passed out of the House Medical Affairs Committee, but never passed a full House vote.
You hear all these ideas, and you'll hear them again, about all the money going across the borders. I can assure you right now, if we think that smoking pot and gambling is going to pay our pension problem, we're kidding ourselves. We're probably smoking pot and gambling is what we're doing. And let me explain something to you, really and truly, seriously. I'm being facetious only a little bit. There are people who optimistically have predicted by the legalization of marijuana, and another thing I say in all seriousness, I have been from the time I was a candidate a strong proponent of the idea of finding a way to legalize medical marijuana as a medicine. And I have advocated this from the time I was a candidate. I've said it every time I've ever been asked about it. And depending on how that bill was written, I would be happy to sign it, because if it's regulated and prescribed in the same way as other medicines are, there is absolute medicinal value in cannabis. Nobody has a beef with that. And it is, 2 words were used by a previous speaker about why we should consider it. One was humane, and it is. I lost a 14-year-old nephew recently here in Kentucky to cancer, and I will tell you, for those of you who've experienced similar things in your families, it is brutal. It is humane. But there was another word mentioned, that it also will generate money. The idea that we are going to do that to generate money is inhumane. It should be no more or less taxed than anything else. And if we think we're going to put medicinal marijuana in place so that we can raise money off of the backs of the tragedies of those families, shame on that idea. I'll say that right now.
Farmers came and went all day today, curious about hemp and how much money they could make.
You know, when something new comes to town, they want to know what it is.
Barry Graves was one of many farmers who came to Sunstrand's Milton processing facility to learn more about how to grow hemp.
The labor costs, time consuming, and making more money.
Graves hopes he can make $350 to $400 per acre, which is what he makes on soybeans. Sunstrand would not tell us what they pay farmers, but said this.
If you can grow upwards of 5 tons an acre, you can equate that to $5 corn. And for a farmer, we haven't seen $5 corn prices in a long time, and those were the glory days of farming.
Sunstrand courted the farmers with food and the promise of free seed.
We are in expansion mode from here on out from the demand side of it, because we have a challenge to meet with the supply side of our side. So it's a great challenge for us.
Most farmers already have all the necessary equipment.
They've already got a baler, so it ain't gonna take much, to start on this. At least try 10 acres here, 12 acres here, see how manageable it is.
Now, if you want to grow for Sunstrand, you're growing it for fiber, just like these bales right here. We're told that if you want to grow it for the medicinal CBD oil, that is a whole nother business. In Milton, Mark Vanderoff, WLKY News.
A major change could be coming to Florida's marijuana industry, all thanks to the new governor. Governor Ron DeSantis held a news conference last week saying state leaders need to lift the ban on smokable marijuana or he will. The owners of a brand new dispensary in Brandon tell ABC Action News reporter JJ Burton it's about time.
Dozens showed up for the grand opening of Brandon's new Grow Healthy dispensary. And the main topic of discussion, Governor Ron DeSantis' aggressive approach to lifting the ban on smokable marijuana.
Light it up, smoke it.
Stacey Wayne Scott says the medical marijuana changed her life.
I've lost over 100 pounds. I'm not in a wheelchair anymore. I'm able to live somewhat of a normal life. I can walk. I can do things for myself now.
Currently, people in need of medical marijuana can legally get it through vapes, oils, and capsules. Doctors say many, like Stacey, prefer smoking.
Flower hits you immediately, hits faster than anything else. So when you need it right then, you're having an anxiety attack, panic attack, you're just in too much pain. That's what you need.
The governor wants the ban lifted by March. He says he'll do it if state leaders don't.
We think that's a great step. We love the fact that our new governor has actually taken a stance.
Places like Grow Healthy are already preparing to start selling smokable marijuana. Their shelves will be packed as soon as the ban is lifted.
We don't know exactly what to expect, but we know there's an enthusiasm from the community at large. We know the residents of Florida overwhelmingly are supportive of medical dispensaries.
In 2016, Floridians voted by an overwhelming 71% to legalize medical marijuana. And the governor says it's now time to give voters what they asked for. In Brandon, JJ Burton, ABC Action News.
I love the hair.
The hair's good. Light it up and smoke it, people.
Yaha. Instant relief.
Don't take my herb, man. And you guys in South Carolina, don't be even thinking about smoking that bud.
Yeah. Crazy.
Everybody's going to get an Air Riser EQ for Christmas in South Carolina.
Wouldn't that be cool?
It's like, buy the stock.
Cannabis connoisseur. Curious Cannabis Connoisseur.
Curious Cannabis Connoisseur.
Would you please tell us your Twitter handle? I put in Curious Cannabis Connoisseur and didn't get ya.
We're looking for your petition to put in, to drop the link in the chat.
In the somewhere.
Welcome,
He says
Paper
it's too
Scratcher.
big for the chat.
Welcome, Paper Scratcher. Hello. Make sure you subscribe, get notifications, give a thumbs up, and share the show. This is Reefer Revolution Live. We do this every Sunday at 4:20 Pacific. We are currently in our Afterburn, which is a look at all of the local news concerning cannabis from all the different parts of the United States and sometimes Canada and the world when we have stories. But there's so much news this week in the lower 48, as it were. We just went through our southern block where we got movement in Kentucky with the most socially conservative medical cannabis law.
Yeah.
And Republicans popping up all over the place saying that we need to let people get what they voted for, liberty, and we shouldn't be taxing medicine. Which is,
not what Democrats are saying.
I kind of actually agree with that.
I 100% agree with the Republicans who believe that.
Boy, let me tell you, the Democrats are not making it easy.
They really, somebody was, before we started the show, there were people who were like going, oh, blah, blah, there's a call for this person running for the Democratic nomination. And I'm like, ugh, I can't even. It's 2 years away, guys. God. The Democrats are always such a disappointment.
It's like the Rams. Did they lose? The game was
I don't know. Don't. Let's not talk about sports. We know nothing about
I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on in the game today. But historically, disappointing. But yes, the Dems are the mainstream, the big Dems, the big dog Dems that are running.
The Dems who run the party.
Yes, that are and are running for president are all
so far
lining up with their narrative for marijuana legalization. But you're
as opposed to liberty.
As opposed to liberty, but you look a little deeper into the state levels, and you see the Democratic governors are saying, no, you can't grow your own plants,
which is not liberty,
and we're going to tax the hell out of it to fill the potholes like they're doing elsewhere, and we're going to lock up more people like they're doing in Baltimore that are not playing by the new rules. It's just an example, but everywhere there's legalization, you have new rules and a list of people that are illegal under the new laws. And you see it in Canada, literally shutting down cannabis culture in legal Canada. So this is what's happening in the United States as well. Been cracking down in California. Collectives went away in California officially on January 9th. So Compassion gone officially out of California. There's no nonprofit cannabis in California. You can give it to people, but you can't be remunerated for your efforts to give patients cannabis through donation, through anything. So these organizations that get cannabis to people, like Weed for Warriors and Sweet Leaf Joe, and these groups that actually try to get cannabis to people, they have to actually pay all the taxes if they're even going to give it away. So we have Compassion back, maybe in California with Gavin Newsom. We're certainly going to try to pass that law again.
Yes. And when I go up to advocate for the Alzheimer's Association, I'm also going to mention that.
Which we were doing coming up
on February the 5th. We'll go live a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I'm bringing up the Sling Studio. I'm going to figure out how to maybe go live from there, but definitely go live.
When will Medicare cover it exactly, Jilly Love? No, Jilly Love 101.
Yeah, insurance.
When will Medicare cover it? This is medicine. If people like, bless his heart, Earl Blumenauer, keep making it seem like alcohol, the harder it's just going to be. We've waited this long. I'm sorry. Mr. Blumenauer, Senator, Representative?
It might be the nose under the tent theory that's really the only way it's going to get passed is if we just acquiesce and say, okay, we're going to regulate it like alcohol, like they're doing in these states.
I'd like to hear what Alexis has to say about it.
Well, I know. I mean, I'm just
Riley also.
I'm just being the devil's the devil's advocate.
And I'd like to know what Sebastian Codd has to say about it. I'd like to know what stakeholders who have a life and death say on it. Because there's other bills moving through the Congress as well. That's not the only one.
That's
Senator
true.
Blumenauer.
That's true. The Marijuana Justice Act.
I'm sure that does not include home grow. I bet you anything.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's not established that you can't.
Okay. As long as it's not established that you can't.
Pretty sure. I'll double check that. We should probably look at that since it's going to be debated. Marijuana, and it should be. If that's actually another thing we should be doing is we should get Barbara Lee, the co-chair of the Cannabis Caucus, to be pushing her Marijuana Justice Act in the House, where Senator Booker is pushing his Marijuana Justice Act, where Gillibrand and Harris, they had a meeting. They said, we're all going to do this bill, and then we're going to go to Wall Street and talk to all the guys up there and get money to get elected. So let's hold them at least to the bill and get them to debate. They're going to debate it in the Senate, but at least if we can get action in the House debating the sister Marijuana Justice Act and get the senators out for it, we can get that going, and maybe they can pass it in the House. Maybe they can pass the Marijuana Justice Act in the House. So we'll get in and tear that apart a little bit and see where that might be going. Has it even been introduced in this Congress? Is my question, and I don't know if it has. The bills that so far, according to Marijuana Moment, who keeps a pretty good pulse on what's going on out of every state and every part of Washington, I haven't seen that come across their wire. So is the Marijuana Justice Act, has it been reintroduced yet in this Congress? So let's see, Barbara Lee. Let's debate it. We're supposed to be debating, or we're going to be debating Gates. Let's debate Gates's bill. And let's see if Tester's bill in the Senate can get into a committee at least and get debated. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with all of that. We're in the afterburn, everybody. This is Reefer Revolution Live. Subscribe, get notifications. Follow us on the socials. We are at Reefer Rev Show, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, as well as at DC420LA on all of those as well. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Going out live on all of those platforms other than Instagram because they're vertical. And we're horizontal. So we do go out over, of course, YouTube, where the amazing chat is going on. Amazing interaction in the chat. Twitch, Periscope, Facebook, DLive, and WeTV, the Cannabis Media Network. So wherever you are, whatever you have to do on that platform to share and like, please do. We'd appreciate it. If you are so inclined, I'll drop those links in again. We do have a Patreon. Our goal is our first 420 patrons. And you can join and be a part of the OG 420 for as little as $1 and as much as you like. And we have a bunch of folks, or a handful. We have a handful of original patrons over there. And that are in the chat tonight. We got Believer in there. We've got Ellen Blassie. We've got Laura Pond. We've got Bonnie Lee dropping rainbows in stream chat.
Oh, sweet.
In rainbows and what was today? It was something else today.
Julie Love is new in the chat.
Julie Love. I know Julie Love.
I don't know Julie Love. Hi,
I know Julie Love from other chats.
Julie Love and I have a love affair with AOC. We're debating Stabby McStabwood on some stuff.
I'm not going to vote for president until she's running.
No, you have to. Don't worry. But yes, Stabby is saying, her ideas are crazy, blah, blah. I disagree. I feel like AOC is one of us who made it into the big party.
Yes, she got into the tent.
She fucking busted down the door and is now not giving a fuck because she has to say all these things. She's outing the corruption that is involved in our government because everyone is owned by the lobbyists, and I don't think anybody in here wants the lobbyists to own their representatives. The representatives should be responsive to the people that they represent. Period. Case closed. End of story. Lobbyists need to get the fuck out.
I don't remember where I saw it, but she did a pretty good breakdown of the progressive tax structure that sort of lit up everybody, and it was like, oh, really? I mean, I don't have to pay 70% unless I hit 10 million? Oh, okay.
We give up stuff all the time.
It's all obfuscation.
Stabby.
It's all a big fazzool, obfuscation, dodge, and and yeah, she's telling it like it is, man. And she's doing it a lot better on Instagram and on the socials than the establishment Dems, like
Oh, yeah.
Elizabeth Warren's beer and Beto's teeth, and I mean, those are just she's not. I think she's knocking it out of the park.
Yeah.
Really think she's a nitwit. I don't know.
Well, I disagree on this, Stabby, and I adore you, but we disagree. So there we go. It's not a show about AOC. It's a show about cannabis. And let's see, from everything I know about her, she's aces on cannabis. Let's see what she does in her new position on cannabis.
I don't know if she's been rated by anybody.
She can't be yet because she's not, she hasn't done anything.
That's true.
She talks about stuff. She's talked about it. She's talked about it in her, in her platforms and stuff, but she hasn't had enough. It's just started.
Time will tell.
Let's see.
Time will tell. All right, we're going to move into the East Coast. Are we not?
Yes, East Coast.
All right, guys, we're moving. We're in the afterburn. We're looking at local news stories from around the country. We just finished our southern block, and now we are going to move into our eastern block. The Eastern Block, which we will start. Where are we starting? Oh, we're starting in Rhode. I think we're starting in Rhode Island, where we have homegrown issues as well. New Jersey might have problems, but they're looking for it this year. And New York City, of course, the governor of New York City has his own plan to legalize and control not only cannabis, but hemp and CBD, and no home grows for you.
That's where he lost me at no home grow, but everything else sounds great.
So let's see what's going on in the East. It goes mute all of a sudden. Okay, here we go.
New details now on Governor Gina Raimondo's plan to change the medical marijuana program here in Rhode Island. Patients with certain conditions have been able to use medical cannabis and grow the plants in their home for more than a decade. But as Eyewitness News reporter Steph Machado reports, that might change under the governor's new plan. Steph?
Well, Shannon, everyone's been talking this week about Governor Gina Raimondo's plan to legalize recreational marijuana, but she's also proposing changes to the medical program, including restricting who can grow at home. One cardholder tells me she thinks they should leave the medical patients alone.
It's this one, and here's another one.
Ellen Lennox Smith says she combines 3 strains of medical marijuana to make the oil she takes for her connective tissue disease.
This is the only medication I can use to help me with pain.
Smith has been growing cannabis in her basement since 2007 for herself and other patients.
We used our retirement money to set this grow up.
We went to talk to Smith after Governor Gina Raimondo revealed her budget plan for next year, proposing to open 6 new medical marijuana dispensaries known as compassion centers, but also restricting home growing to those patients with a hardship. The budget documents say this proposal will increase retail sales of medical marijuana, resulting in increased sales tax.
And it's turned my life around having access to this, and I'm very grateful. But to even think about the fact that we could be losing our money and being shut down because maybe we don't fit whatever criteria they're coming up with, I don't even understand what the point is.
Raimondo's marijuana policy director, Norman Birnbaum, says they will be defining what a hardship is in new regulations.
So we would be looking at those patients who require additional needs and have more special circumstances and typically more of the harsher medical conditions, and making sure that they have protections to grow.
And he says opening new compassion centers should lower the cost for those who aren't allowed to grow. Smith says she plans to testify against Raimondo's plan at the State House.
Why would you possibly touch us? You know, make the money off it for the state, make the money off the people that are using it for fun.
And it's unclear how much of this plan will pass the legislature. Raimondo did try to increase the number of compassion centers last year, but lawmakers declined to do so. I'm Steph Machado, Eyewitness News.
By legalizing adult use marijuana, first and foremost, we can reverse the inequality and unfairness left from years of failed drug policies and shift public safety resources to where they could do the most good. We must ensure that those with a past mark on their records because of a low-level offense can have that stain removed so they can move forward. Amen. Why is it important? It's so that they can move forward to get a stable job or an education. But it will also allow us to broadly benefit from creating an entirely new and legal industry. Much as we did last year, by the way, with sports betting. We are learning from the states that went before us, and I often say I'm glad we didn't go first, on what not to do. But we're also seeing the positive economic impacts. Massachusetts again. Their new industry is creating an estimated 19,000 jobs. And in Colorado, legalization has fostered an industry that has an annual statewide economic impact measured at $2.4 billion, and there, with 18,000 new jobs created in research, agriculture, processing, and retail. We could do that here, and in a smart way that ensures fairness and equity for minority-owned businesses and, importantly, for minority communities.
Well, one of the most controversial topics is making recreational marijuana legal. News 4's Chris Hervadez has more on the governor's plan to make that happen. Chris?
Don, it wasn't until last year that Governor Cuomo came around on the idea of recreational marijuana. He did so after commissioning a study on the topic. And today, he released some details on his plan to make New York the 11th state nationwide to legalize pot.
And we have to do it in a way that creates an economic opportunity for poor communities and people who paid the price, and not for rich corporations who are going to come in to make a buck.
The governor's plan, which faces an optimistic future with Democrats controlling both the Senate and the Assembly, would legalize recreational marijuana for anyone 21 and over. He says it would create $300 million in tax revenue for the state. The proposal would permit personal use plus retail sales, which would be taxed at 20%. It also gives cities and counties the option to ban retail sales.
Unfortunately, anytime we see any type of substance that becomes legal that has the ability to intoxicate somebody, people tend to abuse it.
Police in Buffalo are ready in case this passes and takes effect later this year. Buffalo Police Captain Jeff Rinaldo says driving while under the influence of pot is covered under the same law a drunk driving arrest would be.
We'll probably reissue a training bulletin on the exact offense of 1192-4 so that we are covered in terms of how officers should proceed with charging somebody that they believe is driving under the influence of a narcotic.
And that's what police officials would do if this does end up passing. And what we did not find out today is exactly when lawmakers are expected to take this up, but it is included in the governor's budget plan, and the budget is due on April 1st. Chris Hervadez, News 4.
I don't think it's good if everyone is smoking marijuana everywhere you go.
You're walking, you don't know what you're doing, you're dizzy, and I don't think it's right.
Legalizing recreational marijuana, it seems to work in California.
If they won't be able to stop people from smoking it, town officials believe banning the sale of recreational marijuana may at least curb its use in North Hempstead.
The excess use of marijuana has effect on and an impact on the environment and the community too as well. So it has its good side and a bad side.
The town board voted unanimously last week to amend its zoning code so that no building, structure, or premises in North Hempstead may be used for the sale, distribution, or offer for consumption of marijuana or marijuana products in a retail setting.
If stores aren't allowed to sell it, they're still going to get it elsewhere.
In his State of the State address Tuesday, Governor Cuomo said legalizing recreational marijuana in New York is one of his top priorities for the coming year.
It generates approximately $300 million in tax revenue and creates good union jobs that we need.
Some worry North Hempstead's precautionary law may do more harm than good.
I think that's the whole purpose. We want them to pay taxes on it, so maybe that's not a great idea. If they're going to legalize it, then at least have the store sell it and then charge tax for that.
Last year, the town board approved 2 other laws restricting where medical marijuana dispensaries can open and prohibiting medical dispensaries from selling recreational marijuana. We're live from Great Neck in North Hempstead. Ali Bauman, CBS 2 News.
SUNY Morrisville wants to prepare students for a fast-growing industry around the country and possibly right here in central New York.
The governor is calling for legalizing recreational marijuana. And News Channel 9's Jeff Kulikowski tonight says the college is already planning a cannabis industry minor.
Just a couple of years ago, building a hemp industry in New York was a goal of Governor Andrew Cuomo. And Morrisville, being the ag college that it is, jumped right in to help. Now, as the governor pushes for legalizing recreational marijuana, Morrisville is there again.
We're an ag and technical college. Our job is to train the workers that are on the ground in the workforce, and that's our goal. That's what we're doing. And so if these jobs are going to be there, we need to make sure that our graduates are the ones that are filling those positions.
Recreational marijuana is already legal in several other states, and at least for right now, so is medical marijuana here, with possibly more to come.
They want students that have went for horticulture or similar environmental majors because they understand plant growth. They're not just hiring the guy that was growing in his basement for 10 years. They want the people who understand the science behind it.
With our diverse programs in agricultural engineering and horticulture and agricultural science and agricultural business, we're going to taking pieces of all those and put them together to develop a cannabis program.
These are hemp plants, obviously very, very young, just planted. But what the college intends to do, because the hemp plant is so similar to the marijuana plant, use these as stand-ins to help students understand marijuana cultivation techniques.
The main difference is the levels of THC, so the hemp doesn't have those psychoactive effects, so we can use it as a model for growing marijuana.
Like they've studied hemp growing in other regions and countries and how to adapt it to things like the soil composition and climate of New York, they're going to be doing the same thing with marijuana plants.
We need to be the institution that people think of when they want to learn about this industry.
Which is undoubtedly growing. Jeff Kulikowski, News Channel 9.
The proposed cannabis industry minor is currently in development, but the goal is to have it ready for the fall.
Now, the plan is also to offer opportunities for students to focus on a specific area of interest, like growing or business, through specific course selection. Coming up in Consumer Reports.
In this vacant building, just steps away from the garden, will soon be home to a recreational marijuana store.
Across the street, fine. Great location, you know, as far as it goes. I'm all for it.
This is a rendering of what the shop may look like here on French Street. The company, Ascend Massachusetts, just got approval by the city's zoning board, but it still needs to get the green light from the state's Cannabis Commission Board before opening its doors.
I think it's great. I think it's a lot less damaging to your body than alcohol. I think that there are a lot of health benefits.
After seeing traffic problems and long lines at other shops that have opened up around the state recently, Mayor Marty Walsh says he's glad Boston wasn't the first.
It allows us the opportunity to think about how we're going to handle some of these different situations. I'm not saying that we're going to handle them great. We're going to learn as we go along.
Julia Barnes lives in the neighborhood and feels it's time for Boston to have a store of its own.
Do I agree with it? Yes. Do I technically want it on my street? Maybe not so much, you know, but I mean, I don't want to stop other people from doing something recreationally that they want to do. I'm not against weed.
And if all goes as planned, the company hopes to open sometime this fall or by early winter. Live in Boston, Diane Cho, WCVB.
Delivery she wasn't expecting. A Woburn mother opened her mailbox to find a bag of marijuana, and surveillance video captured the man who left it there. Now, she says it could have been dangerous for her kids. Investigators tell Katie Brace this could boil down to a big mistake.
I always like it snows more in February in Washington than it does in December.
When it comes to weather, Andrew knows all about the subject. At 19, living with autism means he is not so worldly in other ways.
It terrifies me if Andrew would have been the one to get the mail.
Thankfully, this time it was his mom, Laurel Collins, who checked the mailbox. With the bills, she found a sandwich bag filled with pot.
That Andrew could have found it, opened it, and thought it was something like a snack.
She called police. Laurel says she doesn't know who made the delivery to her mailbox, but she has a pretty good idea what he looks like. Her surveillance camera captured video of a man putting something in with the mail. Playing devil's advocate. Sure. You have 3 other children.
Yes.
Could it have been meant for one of them?
No. I have zero concerns that it was intended for any of my daughters.
Woburn police say the drugs were possibly delivered to the wrong house. They say 18 grams were in the bag, $200 worth. Officers took the drugs.
She's very nice.
Laurel wants to ensure her son's innocence and keep him safe. She doesn't want Andrew to suffer the consequences of someone else's poor judgment at her home.
Legal or not, be responsible.
In Woburn, Katie Brace, WBZ News.
All new here at 6 o'clock tonight, the state's Cannabis Control Commission met today and answered questions about the story that our I-team broke this week. The discovery of what appeared to be marijuana tossed in the trash behind a testing lab. Here's the I-team's Christina Hager.
Investigators collecting what police say are vials of pure and extremely potent THC, along with marijuana plant material in an unsecured dumpster behind the Framingham Cannabis Testing Facility, MCR Labs.
Get a lot of feedback and a lot of thoughts on the table.
Days later, members of the Cannabis Control Commission's advisory board now say they're concerned.
It's something that's important to us, and public safety, public health, all those things are things that we're going to take really seriously. And as part of our investigation is exactly what was disposed of.
WBZ's I-team obtained photos of some of the evidence. Framingham's mayor says it was a clear violation of the state's strict regulations around disposing cannabis. We showed pictures to the CCC's executive director, Sean Collins. Do you believe that anyone was using what was found there?
That's one of the things we're going to look into, of course, is what was disposed of in that facility and what their disposal practices are.
MCR released a statement Wednesday saying in part MCR Labs is cooperating with the Cannabis Control Commission to review the matter. As a matter of policy, we routinely render useless all products that we test. That's not supposed to mean throwing the so-called useless products in a dumpster, according to industry experts. And if that is what's happening,
those are things we're always looking for. If someone has something to share with us, we're all ears.
Christina Hager, WBZ News.
This is why we only talk about cannabis.
Heated debate in the chat. But I just want to say one little point of order that is important to include in, there's nothing but love for everyone in the chat.
Absolutely.
Despite our differences on certain things, and we should not call people names.
Hey, and we have recently evolved on the hatred of rich people.
And on the despise of conservatives.
Yes.
So quite frankly, there's a lot of room to grow for all of us. And while everyone here in the chat, we all are on the same page with cannabis.
Yes.
So let's start with that.
And that it is overtaxed, overregulated, and which is keeping people in the black market.
Yeah. So we are all in agreement with that. But let's just talk for 1 second about Medicare for All. And why I'm such a strong, proponent of Medicare for All. So as most of you know, my mom has Alzheimer's disease and has for 9 years. Okay, she's 82 now. She's nearing the end, but technically could be here for a while longer still. And currently, Medicare, the bill I see, says $9,000 a month for hospice, plus the $5,000 a month that the nursing home gets from Medicaid for one hospice patient and who's a dementia patient. Right now, currently, 1 in 3 people die of a dementing illness who are seniors. This is going to cripple us as a country unless we find another way to handle it. And to handle early diagnosis, which is the best way to handle it. And cannabis is also one of the best ways to handle it. So we need Medicare for All so that everybody's in. And a way to fund that is to fix the tax situation. People who make over $10 million a year, I'm sorry, they need 70% over their $10 million. If they can't function on $10 million a year, I'm sorry. And people, small businesses, people, individuals who are making more than $10 million a year are not running just small businesses. I'm sorry, people who are making over $10 million a year should be able to figure out how to live their life with $10 million a year. Whereas people who make $12,000 a year should not be asked to figure out how to live on $12,000 a year. So that's how we're going to fund it all, is taxing people who make over $10 million a year. The stuff over 10 million is taxed at 70%.
But we digress.
That's not unfair. We digress. Not that kind of show.
Well,
go on to the next
it's
thing.
Become that kind of show.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm sorry.
Okay. Moving on to the next
I'm passionate about Alzheimer's disease. We can't just march these people into an oven.
That was tried once. It didn't work out very well. For many reasons. But it does seem like that's what the healthcare system wants people to do, because it's like a waiting room for death in this long-term care system. But let's move on to something that's healing and joyful. Not that all the news is joyful. We're moving into the Midwest. Waiting how long you can enjoy your coffee more. Enjoy your hot cocoa. Okay, here we go. I think we're moving into Michigan, who's got problems with all kinds of stuff. Here we go.
The shelves are bare. Medical marijuana dispensaries across the state are closed because there is a shortage of pot. Mara McDonald live in Detroit tonight. Mara, we are expecting a change in Lansing in the morning that is expected to get medical marijuana back up and running, right?
That's the idea, Devin, and that's the pitch. It looks something like this. Get the supply out there, reopen provisioning centers like this one, while the whole licensing drama plays out.
Empty shelves in a bare storeroom. This medical marijuana facility was shut down because of how Lansing was dealing with licensing. It's a story playing out all over the state.
We've heard numerous complaints, concerns of patients just really not understanding what's going on. Why are we shut down? What is the reason for the shutdown?
Governor Whitmer and the new director of LARA, the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, is asking the Medical Marijuana Board to allow temporary operating facilities to reopen and allow them to get marijuana, and this is key, from caregivers, not just commercial grows.
There's a shortage of supply in the market because there are only a handful of licensed growers in Michigan right now. This would allow dispensaries, retail provisioning centers, to purchase their quantities from caregivers again.
It's a stopgap measure and only applies to medical pot. Recreational, that's an entirely different animal and one that the rules have not yet been written for.
Well, I think it's definitely a step forward. It's definitely a short-term solution. I think it definitely opens up patient access for these products.
When could the Reef theoretically be back in business if the Marijuana Board goes along with the recommendation? Likely next week, but even then, supply will be an issue. Michigan is having marijuana growing pains.
Back here live, as far as opening up next week, assuming that the pot board does what the governor and its director is asking it to do, well, you've got to think about supply issues. Will there be enough to sustain them for several weeks at a time? That's really what all these facilities are grappling with right now. Devin, Kimberly, back to you.
And Mara, again, that supply is only going to medical marijuana card holders, not for recreational use, which we're still trying to figure out in the state.
Exactly. What it means is, assuming the pot board does what the governor is hoping it does tomorrow, these guys get supply, they open back up. It doesn't mean that you, if you are a recreational user, can come in here and buy. That's not what this does. And like you said, that is going to be an entirely different hill to climb, and one that's probably going to go all this year to figure out how we're going to handle it.
Seems so. Yeah. All right, Mara. Kim.
From the Be Careful What You Wish For file, following the legalization of recreational marijuana, medical marijuana dispensaries across the state are running out of the drug many depend on. But today, finally some good news. Coco McAvoy is live at a dispensary on 8 Mile, and Coco, state regulators are working to fix that.
Yes, they really are trying to fix the problem because the application process is so long that a lot of centers are waiting to get their license. And that's why some centers like the Reef here on 8 Mile have been closed. But now the state passed a measure to get them back open for at least a little bit longer.
Staying true to that form, I think, is what helped elevate us to where we are today.
The shortage of medical marijuana is leading to this: empty shelves at the Reef, a popular provisioning center on 8 Mile.
We're kind of in a limbo right now where patients really don't know where to go. And unfortunately, some of them are resorting back to the black market, which the whole point of this was to kind of eradicate that.
But now the State Medical Marijuana Licensing Board is offering a solution for temporary operating facilities like the Reef.
This is a short-term solution that does not fix the end-all be-all.
The state is extending the grace period for licensed applicants because the application process is long with a lot of stipulations. So it's taking a while to get licenses. Now centers have until the end of March. But here's the thing.
If that time comes and we're still not through the application process, there could be a similar situation happen back up around that time.
There are only a handful of licensed growers in the state. With the resolution, centers can buy their marijuana from caregivers instead of just commercial growers.
You know, I think it's a huge step forward.
Though it's a temporary fix, it gives centers more time to plan and stock their shelves again for medical marijuana patients. And staff here at the Reef are currently restocking their product, and they're hoping to be reopened within the next few days. Reporting live this afternoon, I'm Coco McAvoy, Local 4.
Dozens of medical marijuana dispensaries right here in Michigan will be able to reopen after the state forced them to close.
The Medical Marijuana Licensing Board passed a recommendation that will temporarily allow the facilities to do business while waiting to get their license.
7 Action News reporter Naya Hardin takes a look at this impact and how the community will move forward.
Several medical marijuana patients have complained about there being a shortage due to several dispensaries being forced to shut down. But this new recommendation will allow that demand to temporarily be met.
It was booming, thriving with products.
Since January 1st, more than 70 temporary licensed medical marijuana dispensaries like the Reef in Detroit have had to close their doors as they wait on state approval.
We've received numerous emails of just how heartbreaking it is that they don't have access.
The problem has even been addressed by Governor Gretchen Whitmer. She expressed the need for patient access. The Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs recommended the Medical Marijuana Licensing Board extend the temporary operation of facilities. It passed. The new extension is through the end of March. As long as the applicant's proposed facility is within a municipality that had an authorizing ordinance in place by December 2017, the applicant applied for a license no later than February 15, 2018, and the applicant agrees to notify the department within 1 business day of becoming aware of any adverse reaction to a marijuana product sold or transferred, they can temporarily reopen. Under the new recommendation, the CARE Network will be able to bridge the gap. They'll be able to supply cannabis to licensed processors, licensed growers, and temporary or licensed dispensaries. From there, the dispensaries, they'll be able to sell that product to patients. This will help meet the demand, at least for now.
I have to hand it to Gretchen. She really took it on by the reins. She had something crazy drop in her hands, and this is a fix that will definitely help move this industry forward.
The Reef says it may take a week or 2 for dispensaries to reopen. That's because they have to make sure they have enough stock. In Detroit, Naya Hardin, 7 Action News.
If you are interested in coming out here to Sandusky, this is one of the first locations in a very historic day. So if you're coming out here, you definitely have to dress appropriately. Samantha has been here since we actually got here, and that was 4 o'clock this morning, or about 5 o'clock this morning.
5, yeah.
So what does it mean to you to have this? Because this was, you know, a huge deal back and forth between government, but it's finally happening.
Yeah, well, this means a lot to me because when you're in chronic pain, you cannot communicate with other people and you have problems dealing with the pain, and it's an awful feeling because your relationships hurt. So I get my son back because his mom no longer takes pain medication, which makes her severely depressed. And so it's going to be a work in progress.
Yeah.
So he's going to get his mom back.
Wow.
So that's going to be really great. That's an awesome thing.
That means a lot. And you could tell you're very passionate about it. So, good luck today standing out here in the cold. It looks like you're well prepared. But folks, if you're at home wondering, when this location opens, Maureen, now the door says it opens at 7 a.m., but actually the state has changed that for this location here in Forest, or this location here in Sandusky. This is the Forest location. The doors will open up at 9 a.m. So this woman will be standing out here as well as this man until 9 a.m. So definitely dress appropriately if you're coming out here, and be careful in the parking lots too.
The sale of medical marijuana in Ohio got underway this morning at 4 dispensaries around the state. Customers lining up outside the CY Plus dispensary in Wintersville just before 9 o'clock this morning. Initially, the only product available is the flower of the plant that patients will have to vaporize. Well, the state's medical marijuana locations were supposed to open last September, so today's opening was a long time coming. Patients have to have a recommendation from a doctor for one of the 21 medical conditions approved by the state, like Marine veteran Alex Griffin, who lives in Cincinnati and suffers from PTSD and depression.
I have to deal with that every day, and now that I have medical cannabis, I can start living my life, and I can get that quality of life back, and I can be Alex again. So it's just, I'm so happy.
As you talk to people that are here today, they're not concerned about a stigma. They're concerned about getting relief from their pain, about sleeping better at night, getting rid of the symptoms from any one of the conditions that they have.
Dispensaries also opened today in Canton and Sandusky. Dozens more around the state have been licensed but are not yet certified to open. Students
also here at 4 dispensaries now selling medical marijuana for the first time here in Ohio today.
So far, none of the dispensaries in the Miami Valley have opened their doors, but 2 News reporter Deborah Bogart has an update on Pure Ohio Wellness, a company awarded 4 licenses for facilities.
This is their cultivating site here in Enon. They're still about 7 weeks away from harvest, but say they will have plenty of product when their 2 Miami Valley dispensaries open up in March.
As facilities in other areas are selling the first medical marijuana in the state, Pure Ohio Wellness is moving towards opening day.
We'll have both of our dispensaries, one in Dayton and one in Springfield, open the first week of March. We're growing like crazy here at our facility. We're just excited to finally have some medicine available for the patients of Ohio.
The company winning 2 of the 9 dispensary licenses awarded in the Miami Valley. The one in Springfield will be on West Main Street, and in Dayton on Needmore Road. One of the owners, Larry Pegram, says construction of their 2 dispensaries is in coordination with their harvest.
We want to make sure when we start that we know exactly what we're selling to the patients. So we're going to make sure that we wait until our product's available. So when we open our facility, we'll have 100% of our product in there and a little bit of some of the other competitors' product in there.
The group also receiving a processing license for their Enon site, but they're just beginning building renovations for that portion.
We will be making infused products, vape pens, edibles, lotions, tinctures, and that'll come on board a little bit later. At first we'll just be selling flower the first few weeks, but then as soon as we can get the processing running, we'll be selling those products.
They're growing 26 strains here and say all of those should be available at their Springfield and Dayton dispensaries, as well as selling their products throughout the state. Reporting in Enon, Deborah Bogart, 2 News, working for you.
City of Farrell just a few weeks away from having a fully operational medical marijuana operation that grows it and processes it.
27 First News reporter Dan Marcel got a look inside the facility on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. His story is new at 11.
Well, when you were here last, we had some empty buildings that hadn't been operating for years.
Last time Rebecca Myers showed me around the old PPV plate building in Farrell, it still had old machinery in it. Now, it's a nearly finished construction site for Mercer County's medical marijuana growing and processing facility.
To the right is our first vegetative room. It's sort of the nursery, if you will.
The building will house 8 cultivation rooms for growing plants, as well as an area for research and development. The company will work alongside grad students from Penn State to research new ways to use medical marijuana, specifically to help those with opioid addiction.
There's no issue about it. We have a public health crisis in the country right now, and whatever we can do to help that's a large intention that we have.
Last time I was in the area, I also spoke to neighbors who told me they're worried with marijuana being so close to their homes. They're worried about more crime coming to the area.
The level of cameras that we do have, it's almost casino and bank-like.
Marshall says they'll have at least 100 cameras covering all areas inside and out of the buildings, as well as 4 security guards on patrol at all times.
We'll be hiring, eventually up to about 100 people here as well.
That's probably the main thing, is providing a job and providing a service for the community.
Final inspection will most likely come at the end of January, at which point they'll be fully operational by the end of February, and first products will go out in May. Dan Marcel, WKBN 27 First News.
There's not even a bill on the table yet, but the heated debate started today at the state capitol and caused a lot of commotion.
Those on both sides went at each other during a news conference. We go to political reporter John Croman, who's breaking down the issue for us. John?
Well, opponents of recreational pot were holding a press conference. Supporters of the idea decided to take over that one and turn it into a town hall, a very town hall, animated town hall at that. They accused the opponents of distorting the dangers of marijuana.
So please remove law enforcement from our personal health decisions. People want to be healthy.
It didn't start this way, but that's how it ended.
So don't sit up here and tell me that marijuana is not a tool that police officers use to attack black men.
Supporters of legalizing recreational pot decided to hijack the opposition news conference because of what was being said by people like Dakota County Attorney Jim Backstrom.
Marijuana is an addictive substance. The proponents of this legislation don't want to acknowledge this, and unfortunately most people in America are unaware of this.
Or Sandy Melville, who lost her son to a drunk driver.
Austin was killed by an impaired driver with a high BAC, THC, and cocaine in his bloodstream.
Or Dakota County Sheriff Tim Leslie.
And I think we have a really good medical marijuana program in Minnesota, so we can work through that.
Even after the press event wrapped up, proponents went back and forth with Kim Bemis, who heads the opposition to recreational pot.
My child did not go from marijuana to heroin. He went from my opiates to heroin.
Later, the backers held their own press conference and explained why they disrupted the other side's event.
My question is, why is it that you're not as angry as I am? Because it's not affecting your community. I love y'all.
Now, that is John Thompson, who is a friend of Philando Castile's, and he remembers that during the trial, Officer Yanes testified that the smell of marijuana in Castile's car made him think Castile was more dangerous. So that's one of the elements going on here today. As you mentioned, no bill has been introduced here yet at the Capitol, but we expect one probably to come down sometime in February. And Governor Walz says he would sign a bill, but he wants to see how the debate goes. We'll have more about all of this coming up at 6. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, John.
New at 10, legalizing medical marijuana to fight the opioid crisis. The idea got a big boost today from Governor Evers and Attorney General Josh Kaul.
I would much rather have a doctor prescribing medical marijuana than an opioid.
Some Republican leaders have also agreed to begin this discussion.
Ben Jordan live in downtown Milwaukee with why a cannabis researcher says medical marijuana cannot replace opiates. Ben.
Stephen Carroll, the medical examiner's office says more than 700 people have died within the past 2 years here in Milwaukee County from opiate overdoses. One researcher I spoke with today believes medical marijuana could serve as an alternative to opiates, but she doesn't think it's the only answer.
6 to 8 Vicodin 10s a day.
This Milwaukee woman named Debbie,
50 milligram fentanyl patch,
doesn't want to show her face,
and muscle relaxers.
But she does want to share her story.
And I thought living life was normal how I was.
Debbie was prescribed those opiates for more than a decade to treat fibromyalgia, particularly neck and back pain.
When I took the opiates, I was zonked out. When I smoke, take a couple hits off of a joint, I relax.
Ever since she replaced opiates with marijuana, she says she would never go back. Does it worry you that you are breaking the law and could potentially be caught with marijuana?
Why do you think that there's not my face in here? Of course it does.
This fall, more than 1 million voters in 16 Wisconsin counties answered yes to referendums asking whether marijuana should be legal for medical or recreational use. While Medical College of Wisconsin researcher Cecilia Hillard thinks there's a place for medical marijuana in Wisconsin, she says cannabis cannot simply replace opiates.
They're very different chemicals and treat very different types of pain. So opiates are very good for acute pain and very severe pain, such as a broken leg or a tooth extraction. Medical marijuana would not be very good at treating that kind of pain.
Eric Marsh with the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws points to opiate use success stories in states that have legalized medical marijuana.
They had on average a 25% reduction in both opiate overdose deaths and admissions to treatment for opiate addiction.
And Hillard says studies show cannabis can help people quit using opiates because it helps them address the anxiety as they go through withdrawals. Live in downtown Milwaukee, Ben Jordan, today's TMJ4.
Okay, Ben, thank you very much.
In an exclusive interview today, new Attorney General Josh Call says medical marijuana could be a boost to the state's budget. He talked with our Charles Benson.
It looks like pot and politics will be a big issue this year.
I would like to see Wisconsin move forward with legislation that legalizes medical marijuana, and that's something I intend to advocate for with the legislature.
In his first TV interview since being sworn in, Attorney General Call tells me he thinks legalizing medical marijuana could help the state's bottom line.
There are people who face serious pain issues and I think would benefit from having access to marijuana. I think it would be a good source of revenue for the state.
Call stopped short of endorsing legalizing recreational marijuana. Republican Assembly Speaker Robin Vos has said he's open to legalizing medical marijuana, but Republican Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald has said he doesn't support it and he doesn't see much hope of it passing in the Senate.
It's not the legislature that establishes something's a medical treatment.
Milwaukee neurologist Dr. Chip Morris is the president-elect of the Wisconsin Medical Society and says so far there's not enough legitimate clinical evidence to prescribe marijuana as a medicine.
Until it's gone through the appropriate process of testing, we want it to just be a matter of regulation of the product and not labeled as a medical intervention.
And yet more than 30 states have legalized medical marijuana, and Wisconsin's governor and some lawmakers are pushing for it.
Medical marijuana, for me, it doesn't necessarily make any sense as a term.
The National Institute on Drug Abuse says the FDA requires carefully conducted studies, and so far, researchers haven't conducted enough large-scale clinical trials that show that the benefits of the marijuana plant outweigh its risks in patients it's meant to treat.
Right now, the inhalation of combusted products so far has not been a healthy thing for the human lung, and the fact that people are saying it can work for this is encouraging, but it needs to be scientifically vetted.
So, Terry, would Dr. Morris ever prescribe medical marijuana?
He says no, not right now, and not until there are scientific studies that show the proper dosage, treatments, and side effects, Patrick.
Terry Sater reporting live in the newsroom.
Drutter here. It's January 19th, 2019, and I am down to the last few capsules of Effexor. If you've ever been on an SSRI or SNRI, selective serotonin or norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, big pharma drugs that have a lot of side effects and are incredibly addictive. Not addictive in the way that it's enjoyable to take it, just addictive in the way that your body eventually needs it, or you go into very, very, very bad withdrawal symptoms and side effects, and some people even die. So there are a lot of permanent side effects of these, neurological side effects. I am going to replace my SSRIs with cannabinoids. This is a batch of oil I just whipped up so I can do a dab. I'm running out of money right now. I don't have a lot for medicine, but I have ways of medicating I'm fairly good at making dabs and medicine, so I can make stuff like this. Oil, and take a dab, which I'm going to do right now once I heat the rig, and try and stave off the side effects of the withdrawals from these effects or this capsule. This is a really, it saved my life, but it's a really dangerous medicine and a really dangerous drug for anyone to be on. So if your doctor offers you SSRIs or SNRIs, Effexor, or any of the other, any antidepressants really, or anti-anxiety medications, really look into it, because most of them are very dangerous and have more side effects than the doctor will tell you. They're legally obliged to tell you a few certain things about it, but they don't tell you the whole story, and you can find that on the internet if you know where to look. I've done some posting about it myself. I'll put the link down below perhaps, and let's heat this rig so I can get a dab into me. Alright, that's nice and hot. Cheers, let's do this dab. Cannabinoids like THC, CBD, and the other 100 or so safe and therapeutic compounds, the safest therapeutic compounds known to man, can treat opioid addiction and many other addictions, including antidepressant addiction like the one I have. Cheers. Free the weed.
We're just outside of the home of Jamaica Mayor LaDonna Kennedy. 18 marijuana plants were found in her basement Wednesday evening. We are hearing from the town tonight, including the city council. They say they are planning an emergency meeting to get the mayor out of office.
Wednesday evening, Guthrie County authorities received a tip that Rodney Halterman, a man wanted for attempted murder in Story County, may be hiding out in Jamaica Mayor LaDonna Kennedy's home. Halterman, who was later caught, is the foster sibling of Randy Kennedy's granddaughter. When authorities arrived Wednesday, Halterman wasn't there, but deputies did find something else.
The smell of marijuana was strong.
A marijuana grow, including 18 marijuana plants in Mayor Kennedy's basement. Deputies say each plant can produce up to 3 pounds of marijuana. The find came as a shock.
We all know each other in Guthrie County, so it was a surprise.
Sheriff Arganbright says Mayor Kennedy gave no explanation as to why she and her husband had so much marijuana. Arganbright also says his deputies were never tipped off about the operation.
It's unreal that this would happen in a small town like this, with her being the mayor.
Jamaica City Councilman H.D. Monarchy says, unfortunately, this does not come as a surprise to him.
I've known it for years. I mean, just the word on the street.
He says the city council is planning an emergency meeting to boot Mayor Kennedy from office. I did try to speak with Mayor Kennedy at her home tonight, but no one answered the door.
Mayor Kennedy and her husband were both released Thursday without bond. We've been told no court date has been set. City Councilman Monarchy also told us that they are looking to hold that emergency meeting to review the mayor's job as soon as possible. In Guthrie County, Max Deeknight, KCCI 8 News, Iowa's News.
So apparently the mayoral position in Jamaica, Iowa is now open.
But apparently you can't grow weed. So
But
none of you should take it.
Don't grow weed in your bay. That guy in the same, and that big, that fat
fella.
guy at the end, he said, I'm shocked. Oh yeah,
H.D. Meineke,
I knew it all the time.
Yes, Vegan Metro, released without bond. Isn't that nice?
Release without bond. I promise I won't grow any more
Nice,
weed in my
nice
basement.
blonde lady. Released without bond.
Hilarious.
Sure, yes, I'm sure, Vegan Metro, I'm sure that would be how they would handle that same issue for anyone.
She won't be able to run. She won't be able to run for mayor again for a couple years.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Then it'll be fine. Well, you guys are just tearing it up in there. What's up,
Blaster Master? Was this mayor pro-pod or anti-pod? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, really. We should dig a little deeper into
Yeah.
that. That'd be interesting to know. They didn't really touch into that. We'll follow up on that story because that's obviously going to be. Well, they are in Jamaica. Hello. She's mayor of Jamaica. She says, "Why can't I grow weed in my basement?"
Iowa.
In Jamaica, Iowa. Yeah.
It's legal in Jamaica. Not Jamaica, Iowa.
It's getting legal. It's getting legal.
But she should have advocated. That is an interesting question to know if she was pro or anti. And if she was trying to get the laws changed. Anyway.
So there we go. Big news in Ohio. Lots of action in Ohio. Michigan is working out its shortages. Like what? So wait a minute. Oh, and yeah, they're like Ohio's worried about they're not gonna have enough product. You think? So far, everybody who has legalized or opened anything or done anything has run out of cannabis. So maybe you guys should consider that. Canada went legal because Justin Trudeau wanted to go legal, and he set an arbitrary date to do it because he promised to do it. And now they're shutting down patient access right and left. So, it's happening here too. It's, so we're no fan of government here at Reefer Revolution.
No, they fuck everything up. Don't get us wrong.
To be clear.
Don't get us wrong. They fuck everything up.
Yeah.
Like my mom's friend Carolyn. No, please, I don't want to get it started. But really, she makes like $200 more than what she would be able to get Medi-Cal for, or Medicaid. Because if she had Medicaid, she has dementia. If she had Medicaid, she'd be able to have somebody come over and see her once a day to make sure she's taking her medicine, make sure she's eating, make sure she's washing herself and taking care of things. But right now, she's just fucked. They're waiting for her to kill herself in her house because she has dementia. And that's what it means, that we underfund these programs. For fuck's sakes. Please move on to another thing.
Well, we are going to move into the Western region. We're moving on to our final block, the West, and we're gonna. It's a good thing. It's a final block.
I'm so glad.
And it's only a few videos. And Vegan Metro, that's what you say when in the situation. I don't know where those cannabis plants came from. And yes, I want to. Don't even say that.
No, you shut the fuck up.
25 words. 25 words.
Why am I being stopped? Why did you pull me over?
Why are you in my basement?
Why are you here?
Do you have a search warrant? Why are you in my basement?
Am I being detained?
Am I being detained?
Can I go?
Where did the cannabis come from?
I take the 5th. Officer.
And then you... Shut the fuck up. But anyway, let's continue into the West. Chela's going to have some ice cream, which is ready to go.
Oh, I'm so excited about my vegan ice cream and my vegan ready whip.
That will help with the joy and
Vegan Metro,
and ease and flow.
Do you know about the vegan ready whip? It's made with almond milk.
And it's really good.
It's outrageously delicious. It's just like yummy regular whipped cream.
So in the West, of course, we have a number of things going on. Arizona, we've got news in Arizona this week. Talking about legalization, we have an art exhibit in Colorado of the young faces of cannabis. Deliveries are okayed statewide in California as Hollywood Wedding Expo sparks up a new industry in the Golden State, capitalizing on legal cannabis here in California. Let's take a look at our Western Block, as I'm sure the chat will continue for the next 10 minutes of videos. We'll see you on the back end, everybody. Free the plant, free the people. That was an amazing video. That guy in that video, getting off the NICADs, ISADs, all those bad things. Not just opiates, people. Not just opiates that cannabis can get us off of. Here we go. Arizona.
There's a new report by the state health department, and it's found that medical marijuana sales have increased 41% in Arizona, which is almost twice as fast as the growth for marijuana card carriers. The report covered data from 2017 and 18. The state health department reports that medical cannabis patients consumed nearly 122,000 pounds of pot in 2018, which is up from 87,000 pounds in 2017. And the number of patients increased by just 20% to 186,000 in that same time period.
So now we want you to weigh in on this issue. Given the findings, what do you think the next step should be for marijuana in Arizona? Keep it medical, legalize it, or recreationally, or just ban it altogether?
And you can see our live interactive poll right there at the bottom of your screen. 73% of you say legalize it. 15% of you say keep it medical, and just 12% of you say ban it all. You know, I looked more into this study. It was really interesting as far as some new information that came out of it. It was saying that males with medical marijuana cards outnumber females 3 to 2. That the largest group of card holders, surprisingly, is in the 31 to 40 age group. And more sales are actually made on Saturdays than any other day of the week. But don't you think it's kind of inevitable?
It is. It's inevitable that it's going to become legal nationally. Yes. It just will. I mean, we have the highest incarceration rate in the world in the U.S. when it comes to marijuana incarceration. Not to mention the fact that I think you won't end it, but you'll take a chunk out of these drug cartels that are trying to sneak across the border. So you're going to hurt them. You're going to create another tax revenue source for the country,
for education,
for the country, for education, right? And you're going to take the mystique out of it.
Yeah, but a lot of people would argue, you know what, this is just going to be a gateway to other drugs,
I think that's
more lethal drugs.
Yeah, that's been
It's an easy
disproven.
argument, but a lot of people still oppose it. But again, with the way the nation
you know who's opposed to it? The makers of opiate drugs.
Yeah.
They don't want to see it legalized.
Right.
Anyway, we'd like you to weigh in on this. It's an important topic. You can weigh in right now at 12news.com/yourvoice.
Well,
they are powerful portraits. A new art exhibit in Denver features a series of photos of the kids that use cannabis and CBD oils to treat their seizures. Jeff Todd, live tonight at the gallery on Santa Fe Drive. And Jeff, this exhibit is certainly drawing a crowd.
Yeah, Karen, even the gallery owners have been surprised how many people are coming in. The artist has worked with some of these kids for 5 years, each of them with their own story, but all together, they've changed stigma and legislation around cannabis.
Rayanne, Cody, Caden, Ayana, Olivia, Lily.
Nicole Montanez has taken photos of 283 kids.
Cora, Zakai.
She can't forget a single one.
It is a collection of portraits of the children who changed the medical marijuana movement.
Her journey started with 2 kids, her niece and this girl, Charlotte.
Sort of wanted to put a child out there to say maybe you should take another look. This is not people who are trying to get high.
Many of these kids use CBD to treat epilepsy. They're the forefront of the cannabis revolution.
I witnessed politicians changing their minds, being open-minded, willing to listen. And I want to secure their place in this, in history.
She's emotional talking about the exhibit.
Evan, Ezra, Elsa, Kennedy, Teapot.
Because she has a special bond with each child and their families.
They've invited me to share really special moments with their kids. There is no cure for what the kids have. What we're talking about is a quality of life, a decrease in seizures, a chance to have a break from that.
The Face of Cannabis exhibit will be running here at the Habitat Gallery for about another month. It's going to go away in early February and then head to other states. We've got all the details for you to find it on CBSDenver.com. Reporting live in Denver tonight, Jeff Todd, covering Colorado First.
California regulators have given the okay to home marijuana deliveries statewide, even into cities that have banned commercial marijuana sales. Cannabis companies and consumers had been pushing for the regulation, arguing people in those cities were being cut off from legal marijuana purchases. Police chiefs and other critics opposed this rule, saying it will create an unruly market of hidden pot deals and undercut control by cities and counties. California kicked off broad legal marijuana sales last year.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Click the ABC7 logo to subscribe.
There's a new business coming to Lompoc. The city just issued its first commercial cannabis certificate to Leaf Dispensary. It will be the first recreational cannabis store in Lompoc. It's located on 423 West Ocean near Ryan Memorial Park. The store has what they call a bud bar, which lets people see the different types of cannabis, and a bud tender is there to explain the different types of marijuana. According to employees, lots of people showed up today to buy some weed.
We've been packed since 10 o'clock. It's been a rush hour. As you can see, all the people are coming in one after another. It hasn't stopped.
As of today, 10 commercial cannabis use license applications have been approved by the city clerk's office. 16 applications are pending. As of right now, there's no word on when the next certificate of occupancy will be handed out.
Hi there. Yep, it was a total cannabis wedding. There was cannabis everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
It was fantastic. Our wedding was the best wedding we've ever been to. Isn't that awesome?
Even the one in Costa Rica.
No,
there was no cannabis.
A million times better than that. Ours was really, really a great wedding. So, anyway, Well, very lively chat, y'all.
Super lively.
Super lively. Agree to
and
disagree.
And it's just 2 years away from the election. Oh, I can't wait.
That's all right. We're going to just not talk about that.
We're going to focus on getting cannabis off the Schedule 1 of drugs.
That is where we find common ground with so many.
Listen, if we were to deschedule cannabis nationwide tomorrow, took it off the controlled substances, didn't move it over anywhere else, just totally descheduled it, said, people, you can grow around the country, you can just grow it in your backyard, you do anything with it. It's free. Free the plant, free the people, do whatever you want. What do you think would happen? Opioids would drop. Crime would drop.
People would get a lot healthier.
People would get healthier. $40. Oh, and the children, please. $40 a pound weed at the farmer's market because somebody grew it in their backyard. It's not going to go across the country state lines to sell for $4,000 a pound because you can grow it over there. Get some from your friend. Bring it over there.
That's right.
That would there's a script. What if that would be the thing? The fearmongers won't tell you that. They're gonna say everybody's gonna get schizophrenia. It's gonna turn into The Walking Dead. There'll be a bunch of zombies.
Makes no
Everybody's gonna kill everybody.
Nah. We've seen that, been there, done that. Not happening.
We've had an experience over the last 40 years of prohibition that none of this is true.
None of this is true.
It only gets better and better as cannabis gets more and more accessible to people.
And just like Jilly Love said, that what you focus on. Wait, let me get it exactly right. Where is it back here?
Sounds very familiar.
It was a million moments ago. In reality, you get what you focus on. If you feel inadequate, you see scarcity everywhere. If you feel gratitude, you bring abundance. It's very Abraham Hicksy.
Super.
And I love it. And, of course, everybody focus on the stuff you want to see in the world. We can all agree on that, at least. Focus on the stuff you want to see in the world. That feels better than focusing on the other stuff.
Accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative.
Totally.
Yeah, a lot of these truths have been provided to us, and we just haven't been available to.
We got a thumbs down. Thanks, everybody.
I wonder who that was.
That's far out. That's excellent.
I'll venture.
It's been so much fun.
It has been fun
today.
It's been great. It's been great. We're trying to keep it on cannabis.
Yeah.
But we love you all. We love you all. We love the conversation, and we will see you all next week at 4:20 Pacific.
Yep.
For Reefer Revolution Live, where we will catch up on the week's cannabis news with blunt commentary.
Yes. Thank you, Tarly, for reminding everyone about that. The eclipse tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Whoop, whoop. Yes.
The super red moon. The red super moon.
No, we're not ready to pop beans just yet.
9:16 out here on the West Coast, apparently.
Yep.
Oh, it's just
very
in time.
Exciting.
I guess we could go live for the red moon out here.
No, we're going to just enjoy the red moon. How about that? I'd like to enjoy the red moon.
We're just going to enjoy the red moon.
And be present with the moon and do our thoughts. So, on Instagram, do you have that? You probably don't.
What's that?
If I can find it. I was looking at a really lovely thing for tonight about the moon, about preparing. It's on Gia's. It's on Lala Lady Gia's Instagram. So go to hers. And it's how to prepare for tonight's moon. That's a lovely thing to end on.
Not her video?
No, not the video. It's
Here it is.
This.
I got it.
You got it.
It's up.
Okay. So I love it. It's so this is how to prepare for the rare full super blood wolf moon totally eclipse tonight.
Super blood wolf moon?
That's tonight.
Wow.
So expect the unexpected surrounding news, insights, revelations, plot twists, and surprise encounters. Maintain a positive mindset as thoughts and beliefs will be rapidly manifesting. Be aware of what you're wishing for. Trust your intuition. Pay attention to the energy surrounding you. Stay grounded. Take time out alone. Walk away from drama and don't let other people's negativity lower your vibration. Don't be afraid to let go and release attachment to anything or anyone that you cannot resonate with on a healthy frequency. A major shift is taking place, so get plenty of rest and remain open to this divine cosmic energy. So that this divine cosmic energy can transform you. Trust the process. Your soul already knows the plan. So I want everyone to take some nice deep breaths, enjoy your most favorite cannabis product, and set some great intentions for this amazing event that's coming. We are vibration first.
You mentioned that.
Full moon is at 9:16 out here in the West Coast. But apparently it's all starting now. All right, well, we best go out and get our vibration straight. As Esther would say, we are all vibrational beings. We're going to go watch the red blood wolf moon. Oh, okay. I think it's full. 9:16 is the full moon here, so it should be at its peak. Yeah, it's starting to eclipse, I think, or whatever it does. I don't even know what it does. But apparently Chela wants to see it because she's outside. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Love you all. We'll see you next Sunday if we survive the blood red wolf moon. But I guess I'm going to roll one up, fill up a bag, maybe take some Fico. Hell, it's a blood red wolf. I might do some psilocybin. You didn't hear me say that. No, I won't. All right, guys. We love you. We'll see you next week. Free the plant, free the people. Bot for peace. The blood red wolf moon. Woohoo!
Murderers keep murdering, the churches keep a-burning, the rapists keep a-raping, and the tide ain't turning. Uncle Sam, for all your power, things get worse every hour. It seems to me your energy's unwasted, chasing my friends and me. Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. The terrorists keep terrorizing, our leaders keep a-lying, the haters keep a-hating, and the planet's dying. Do what's proper, call off your dogs and your helicopters. The problems of society were not caused by my friends and me. So hey, Uncle Sam, hey there, Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. How many innocent people gonna be imprisoned? We just peace and love and street pop and brotherhood freaks. A touch of Mother Nature never made nobody violent, never made nobody hate, nobody will break nobody's peace. It's never been shown to be harmful. Don't you tell me no lies with your caffeine, codeine, nicotine eyes. The cannabis ban is just recent, just since 1938 to re-legalize it, realize it. You made a big mistake. Hey, Uncle Sam, hey there, Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. Leave us pot
This drug is dangerous. You cannot play with it. It's not funny. It's not something to laugh about. Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Smoke weed.